Okay, could we please just get everybody to take their seats? Everyone take your seats. That would be great. We're about to get started.
Hello. Yira, hello and welcome everyone. Good morning to you all. My name is Joseph Ruska and I'm a descendant of the Yagara people of this area through my father, Shannon Ruska, who is a well-known spokesperson and songman here in Brisbane on behalf of the Yagara people. The Yagara tribe is one of the local tribes that occupies the area, stretching from the mouth of the Brisbane River, south to the Logan River and out to the Great Dividing Range to the foothills of Warwick and Toowoomba, and as far north as the Caboolture River. I'm here this morning to give you what is called a welcome to country. A welcome to country isn't something that was made over 10, 20 years ago. It isn't something that was recorded down on paper by any of our elders back in the day. And it isn't something that events organisers or just anyone have just planned to just organise overnight. It is something that has been around for over 60,000 years, passed down from generation to generation, and is a formal way of welcoming everyone into our tribal areas nowadays. And is also known as one of the oldest living customs in the world known to mankind. Along with the welcome to country is also the chumul ceremony, the smoking ceremony. And this is a ceremony that you see a lot of the Aboriginal tribes around Australia do. And this chumul ceremony, the smoking ceremony, is a cleansing away all the bad spirits from the area, bringing in all the good spirits from the area, and is also a blessing. Blessing everyone into our tribal areas and blessing everyone with a safe journey through our tribal areas. And is a time for us as traditional owners to call out and sing out to our ancestors to help welcome everyone through that smoke. Along with the welcome to country and the chumul ceremony, the smoking ceremony, was also the passing over the message stick. And this message stick is one which we call yalwa buna. And this yalwa buna was a piece of wood used similar to a passport back in the day, and would have different markings or carvings on it to depict the reason why another tribal group wanted to come into our area. For example, there are over 350 different tribal groups throughout Australia, many different dialects. If we were to head down to the Logan River, heading down south and heading towards the Gold Coast and cross over that Logan River, it'd be governed by a whole other tribal group again, which would be the Yugambeh tribe. And the Yugambeh tribe, they'd have their own set of customs, own tradition, own law, and also their own language. And that's where a lot of our tribal groups had a special person in our tribe back in the day, and that special person was a messenger man. And one of the main messenger men for the Yagara people, and one of the last messenger men for the Yagara people, was one of my great-grandfathers. His name was Mukin. And Mukin, he was a man that could speak up to about 10 to 15 different languages. So he's a man that could speak many dialects, and he's a man that could communicate with all the neighbouring tribes throughout southeast Queensland. So Mukin was one of the main men to meet this person at the border with the message stick. So a lot of our tribal areas are bordered off by mountains and rivers. So as I said before, if we were to head to that Logan River, we'd actually share that Logan River with the Yugambeh mob. But for one of us to pass over the river, we'd have to use that passport, that Yalwa Buna, to cross over. And one of the main reasons that a tribal group would look to come into our area was if they wanted to hunt our totem. And for those of you who don't know what a totem is a representation of your clan or your family group. And this totem could be a tree or an animal. But this tree or animal, we cannot harm, we cannot kill. We've got to look after this animal, for that animal holds the next generation, and that animal holds all the stories. So if another tribal group, as I said before, there's another tribal group that was one of the main reasons why they wanted to cross over into our area. And if it was to hunt the totem, it was then up to the tribal group then to either grant that one person or that tribal group permission to come through our country and hunt that animal. But if they were to hunt that animal, they'd have to kill that animal, that have to clean it properly, cook it properly, and eat it properly, and not waste any part of it for this much, cause tribal warfare between two tribes, and there'd be a big war, all the boomerangs and spears would come out then. But yeah, as I said before, all these tribal groups needed this message stick to cross over, and if they didn't have that message stick to cross over, the tribal group would actually come through and spear that person or that tribal group dead on the spot. Very serious back then. That's why we're glad they invented mobile phones these days. There are three main tribes that occupy this area, the Yagara, Jagara, and Turrbal tribes. Just on behalf of those three tribes and all of my elders, I'd like to welcome everyone here today by saying, Yura Yura Nambali, Yanara Gana Ripa Jara, Nanya Birili, Nanya Bayami Jara. Means you're all welcome here today, and may God and all of our ancestors guide us here in peace. Thank you, and welcome to Yagara country. Everyone enjoy the rest of your day.
Wow, thank you so much, Joseph, there from Tribal Experiences. My name is Emma Griffiths, and I work at Arafmi in the Policy and Advocacy team, and I am your MC for today. Now, before I start, I'd like to welcome and also thank two of the hardest working people in this room today, and that's our Auslan interpreters, Tanya and Michelle. So they're here interpreting for you, and welcome, thank you. And welcome to you as well if you are watching on our YouTube live stream. It's great to have you with us too. Yes, big wave to you. So today is a day for you, the mental health carers. You are the most important people in this room. So we have massages. You can book in at the back, as I can see a nice line of people already doing. We have a decent amount of food, yummy food for you today. I don't think you're going to leave hungry. We also have some dancing. And we have, if you need a break, a couple of things arranged. There's quiet space outside to the right. Throughout the centre, there are a few quiet spaces if you just need to have a breather. And we also have Sarah and Tanya from the Arafmi team. Can I get a wave from Sarah and Tanya? And maybe a stand up, Sarah. They're here as well if you want to talk directly, get some individual support from our Arafmi team. Outside, you would have seen as well coming in all of our stall holders. A big thank you to them. Hopefully, if you need some information about anything to help you through your role as a carer or individually, then they're there. And also outside, we have our very own artist today. Letitia is here, you can see. And Letitia's here all day. If you would just like to take a break, join in with some beautiful watercolour painting or just to sit and watch, and that can be quite meditative as well. So that's terrific. I did sort of check to see if I could just do that all day, but apparently I'm not allowed to, Irene. So that's lunchtime. Woohoo! Okay. Now, to inside the room, I don't know... if you could notice on some of the tables, they're so beautifully done. The angle of the pens that are placed on the books, specific directions from our amazing marketing and events officer, Richard. Richard, are you in the room? Nope, you might have seen him outside. He's wearing a bucket hat. He's terrific. And so big thanks to Richard and the rest of the marketing team as well. Anna, and Mel. And Lily is also here. And Lily works for Arafmi but also has her own stall outside with some lovely ideas for supporting you as a carer. Sitting with you at each of your tables, you may have noticed there's someone in black. And that is our lovely people from Arafmi. If we can just say hello, everyone. So you have an Arafmi team member at your table. If you don't, maybe... I think we're fixing that right now. So they're there. They've got all the answers, really. If you've got any questions... No pressure, team. No pressure. They're there for some support, but also we've got a couple of exercises today for you, so they're there as well to help you through that. Among those exercises, there's in the centre of the table you'll see a little pile of cards. Now, these are cards to help you on the table connect with each other. We really hope that this event is a place where you can come and talk to people, find people who are familiar with your experiences. And so to ease us in through that, we've got these cards. We'll do that just before morning tea. Interesting questions there, just lovely things like, what did you love doing when you were a child? And maybe that is why I want to go do that watercolour, because doing art was definitely one of those things. There is also, you will notice, Renee. Renee, our photographer, is here. She's going to take only photos of you where you look absolutely beautiful. And Renee is also set up outside to get headshots of you. So if you would like a headshot, for whatever purpose, resume, a Christmas card to send to all of your relatives. Hi, remember me? Then Renee is there to also do that. And it only takes a couple of minutes, really. Just put a bit of lipstick on, comb your hair. I don't know, Ben, you don't need any of that. Okay, you look great. So you will see on your programs that we have some quite powerful people here to listen to you today and to address you. Now, after morning tea, we have a panel, and on that panel will be the Federal Assistant Minister for Mental Health, Emma McBride. We did ask for our state Assistant Minister as well, but Parliament is sitting, so genuinely couldn't make it here today. We also have Ivan here, who is our Queensland Mental Health Commissioner. Ivan, thanks very much for coming here, and we'll hear from you after morning tea as well. And then after lunch, we have a session that we hope will be really helpful for you, and that is about how to get the most from your psychiatrist, or the psychiatrist of the person that you're caring for. We have psychiatrist Christian Heim delivering our keynote address. There will be a chance to ask our panellists and Dr. Heim questions. We're not going to take questions from the floor. What we're going to do is ask you to come up, and just behind Irene and Alex there, if you can see, there's pens and paper on the wall there. Thank you very much. It's like Sale of the Century. And if you wanted to keep your questions quite general, so really not specific to your case or personal circumstances. I mean, in this space, we just want to be careful that it's safe for everybody, and the things that we talk about out loud publicly here, all together as a group, and not, going to really upset anybody. So if you need to do that, of course, then there are people here who can help, including Sarah and Tanya, again, here for the individual support. But if we can just keep the questions to general issues, I think that will be really helpful for the group. And you can see there's questions for Irene there as well. And questions for Emma McBride, questions for Ivan, and questions for Dee Backman-Hoyle, who is here as well from our national peak body, Mental Health Carers Australia. Dee, give us a wave. Thank you very much for coming along today. At the end of the day, there are tickets for lucky door prizes. You'll see those tickets just there, also very carefully arranged on the table at a specific angle to those pens. This is the level of care that's gone into preparing a lovely day for you. So that's lovely? I told you, you were the VIPs. Now, those lucky door prizes are going to be drawn at the end of the day. It's our trick to keep you here, because some of those prizes are awesome. I think we've managed to get sponsorship from QPAC to go to a show. What else have we got, Alex? And the ballet. I mean, they could be a couple of lovely nights out. Now, the person who's going to draw the winners of that lucky door prize absolutely rates this as one of her favourite things to do through the whole year. And you'll see later today, on an absolute high, giving things away. It's Irene, our CEO, and Irene has been leading Arafmi for quite a few years now through quite a few changes. How many years are we up to? 6 years. Loves giving things away. So this is always good to know if you need, just Irene. So Irene has overseen the expansion of our services for carers this year, the creation of our policy and advocacy team, thanks for the job, boss, I think we're coming up to 18 months. Sue, would that be right? Sue, of course, is our lived experience lead in the policy and advocacy team. And Irene has also just recently overseen the development of a really exciting new resource, which we have, I think, copies for people today as well. In the bags, okay. Which Irene will be taking you through. I've got a note here. We need some wild applause for Irene, please. Woo! Yeah! Yeah! Woo! Yeah! Everyone, let's dance her in. Come on up. Yeah! It's actually your turn to talk.
You get away tries. You get away tries.
Woohoo!
Thanks, Emma, for that wonderful introduction. Thank you, everybody, for your warm applause. Before I start, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we gather. And Joseph did a wonderful welcome to country, so I want to thank him and his family for that. And pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. There's a few other people I'd like to thank before we start. Commissioner Ivan Frikovic, thank you to you and the Commission for generously sponsoring Arafmi's forum. They're also sponsoring one in Cairns in a few weeks as well, so just want to thank Ivan for your commitment to carers through the years, but also your commitment to expanding us to regional areas too, so thank you very much. Could everybody give Ivan and the Commission team one thank you? I'd like to acknowledge you all as mental health carers who are here today. I see many, many familiar faces and a few new ones. And probably the most familiar face, and I do want to acknowledge you all, but I want to acknowledge... Hi, Renee. Thank you. Oh, sorry, natural shots. So, I want to acknowledge somebody in particular. We have the wonderful Clifford Leong. Clifford, are you okay to stand up just to give everybody a wave? Clifford's one of Arafmi's life members, and this is his 50th year at a carer forum. Thank you, Clifford, and thank you for reminding me. So Clifford attended the first Arafmi forum in Sydney back in 1976. It's Arafmi Queensland's 50th anniversary next year, so we'll expect to see you all and have a more significant party and lots of celebrations throughout the course of the year. But Clifford, I just want to acknowledge your phenomenal contribution to families and carers and to Arafmi through the years, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing you next year at our many events. I'd like to also acknowledge Denise Buckby, the chair of Arafmi's board, and the rest of the board members. I believe Tom might be here, and we have the wonderful Sarah, who's a board observership member. We'll talk a little bit about that at lunchtime, but welcome, Sarah, to your first Arafmi event. And I'd like to acknowledge the Arafmi staff team. Alex, I think you're going to do some introductions as well, but could I just ask all of the Arafmi team to stand up, please, just to give everybody a wave, and to wave to the back of the room for anybody who's joining online. Look at our phenomenal team. So I've been here 6 years, and in 2019 our Arafmi carer-specific team were 3 people, and we still have the wonderful Julie here from the original team. Julie, can you give everybody a wave as well? So when I started in 2019, we only had 3 dedicated employees specifically for mental health carers, and now I think we're around about the 35 plus, and we'll talk a little bit more about that today around the expansion, but just wonderful to see the focus on mental health carers and the support from Queensland Mental Health, Alcohol and Other Drug Branch, and to Wellways for the Carer Gateway programme and the support we've received to enhance our programme, so thank you very much for that. So I'll just give you a very, very brief update on where we're at. Can I get a bit of a show of hands? Who was here last year? I reckon there's about half of the room, I think. Yep. Yeah, quite a few people who were here last year. And we talked about some of the journey that Arafmi was going to take around separating our NDIS services to family and carer services. So we had a very intentional strategic plan to separate those to make sure we were, Arafmi is the traditional organisation, we're focusing on mental health carers. So we've now completed that, and sadly we made the decision to transition away from NDIS services this year. Fortunately, we were able to work with some very good organisations to ensure that all employees and participants were offered jobs and services. So it's a very thoughtful, considered process, but we now no longer provide NDIS services, and we're fully committed to just providing family and carer services. So that gives us a real genuine focus on where we're going next with no areas of interruption. So that's one of the big changes that we've made. If you're signed up for our membership base, you'll see that in our annual report this year, which will come out in December. So you'll see a bit more information about that. But I do want to acknowledge and thank the wonderful work that our NDIS team did to ensure that participants who lived with psychosocial disability had a good quality life. And thank the team from Arafmi for their utmost professionalism and compassion through that whole process. So we have now extended our Carer Gateway programme as well, and I think I can see some people from Wellways at the back. There's a couple of people. Do we have anybody else as well? Could you give us a wave too, please? So Arafmi have taken on a new programme with Carer Gateway through Wellways, which has been a wonderful partnership. So we now extended our services statewide. So we have a few people up, and this is the test. Cairns, Rocky, Townsville, Sunshine Coast, Gladstone. Thank you, Alex. You can go through that later with much more accuracy than I will. But we've now been able to expand our reach across the state for mental health carer specific services. So I just want to commend Wellways on their insight and innovation to try and look at that from a mental health carer specific point. So thank you very much to the team for that, and it's lovely to see you. And finally, just everything else that we're going through, and Emma mentioned we've got about 18 months now of fully funded carer advocacy. And we've done some phenomenal work in such a really short time. So I'd like to introduce you to the wonderful Sue Goodwin, who leads the policy and advocacy team. So Sue's the lived experience lead for the policy advocacy team, and she's going to talk you through a few of the things that they've been really busy with over the last 18 months, and maybe some things to come. Possibly. Cool. If you could all give Sue a warm welcome, please. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here with you again. Last year was my first ever Arafmi Carer Forum, and it's hard to believe it's been a year since then. So what I wanted to do was share with you a little bit about what we've been doing last year, since last year, particularly what we've been doing in relation to all the amazing feedback and input that those of you who were at last year's forum have given us. One of the first things I wanted to do is to introduce, we have 2 new team members in the policy and advocacy team, and so you might like to have a little chat to them today if you've got any kind of burning issues on your mind that you're keen for us to look at. Sasha Ong, would you like to stand up in the middle there? So Sasha is our new engagement and advocacy officer. Welcome, Sasha. 2 weeks into the job, so really great opportunity for her to be here and to meet you all today. And then Farina Murray. Farina has joined us as a research and policy officer 3 weeks into the job. So welcome, Farina. Some of you might recognise yourselves from these photos last year, or at least recognise what these people are doing. Those of you who were here last year would remember that we spent a whole chunk of time in the middle of the day looking at what came out of our at what cost report, the copy which I should have in my hand but don't at the moment, the statewide consultations that we did. And out of that, we started to look at, as a collective, what kinds of things might we start to focus on in the coming year. Thank you very much. This amazing report, if you haven't read it already, I'm pretty sure we have copies outside that you can grab from the Arafmi table. And out of that activity, we came up with a whole pile of ideas of things we could do, and you were given 5 votes in the form of little red dots and asked to vote for the things that you thought were most important for us to focus on in the policy and advocacy team. And out of that activity, these were the 4 things that came out on top. Some of them are a bit of a combination of a few different ideas. But the first one was all about raising awareness of mental health carers. And there are 2 aspects about that. We need to raise awareness amongst people who are family members or others who are in a caring role to recognise that actually they're doing something that's more than what your average family member, friend, community member might do, and to recognise that there are supports out there to support us in what we do. There's also, we wanted to work on raising awareness amongst organisations who might come into contact with mental health carers, including mental health practitioners, and falling under that is the guide that Irene's going to be showing us and going through shortly. So we've been doing a few interesting things in there. We've just about finished developing a fact sheet kind of thing about who mental health carers are and how to recognise them, and we'll be circulating those once they're done shortly. The second area that came up was around raising awareness of supports and resources for mental health carers. So we're in the process, we've almost finished designing a resource hub specifically for mental health carers, and that's going to go onto our new website, which Anna, our marketing and comms manager, is in the process of designing. There are a couple of, well, actually more than a couple, there are a few people who have been really integral in designing this new resource hub because we want to actually make it really relevant and user-friendly to those of us who are in caring roles. So for a start, we've taken some research done by the amazing Marianne Weeder, who is here today. Marianne, would you like to... Okay, Marianne is over here. Just this week, fresh off the press, her research has been published in a journal where she's looked at when someone with mental health challenges is going through a recovery process, what is it that the families and other carers are going through at the same time? What's the carer stages and responses that happen in each of those places? And so we're actually designing our new resource hub based on Marianne's research. So it's been really amazing to have that as part of it. The other people who have been integral in the design of our new resource hub and actually giving great feedback on the design of the new website is our brand new Carer Consultative Group. So we just had our 6th meeting yesterday. We came together face to face. So some people who live around the state came in and we all got together at the Carer Hub yesterday. And they've been really integral in helping us to design something that really speaks to families and carers. And so I wonder whether those of members of the Carer Consultative Group who are in the room today might like to stand up so that people can see you, and they might like to come and share some thoughts with you around what they might like to see on the website and Resource Hub. The third thing that we've been working on, and probably some of you have been involved in this one, is the issue of planning for what happens when we can no longer care. So we've been doing a whole pile of research, and Farina's been really integral in helping us with that, looking at what sorts of areas of planning we might be able to do and what kinds of supports we might need. And so we've had the first of some future planning workshops that happened kind of a month or so ago, face-to-face one here in Brisbane and an online one for people who are outside of Brisbane. And we have a number more of those workshops happening over the next little while. So keep an eye on our social media and newsletter for details of those. We're doing that piece of work in collaboration with an organisation called MICA, Mental Illness Caregivers Association, based in Ontario, Canada. They're also grappling with this issue, so we're doing the work together, and we will hope by the end of this year have some information to share with you about what we found, about what the needs are and what kinds of solutions exist out there. And then the final area that we've been working on is around improving mental health carers' experiences of hospital admission and discharge processes. very clear that this is probably a 10-year project, so we're breaking it down into small chunks. We're particularly focusing at the moment on the discharge process side of things, and we've started to have conversations with a few health and hospital services around Queensland. We're particularly interested in health and hospital services that are in areas that have rural and remote areas connected with them, looking at how we can actually improve those connections between hospital and back into rural and remote communities. So we're just starting to explore that one a little bit. And one of the groups of people who have been integral in helping us explore that topic are members of our new community of practice. So our community of practice is open to anyone who has an interest in advocating for changes that address some of the challenges that we experience as family members and carers. And they come together once a month to talk about things and see what actions we can do collectively. So that hospital admission and discharge project is one of the ones that they're working on. So I know we have some of the members of our community of practice here today. Would you like to stand up as well in case anyone wants to have a chat to you about what you're doing? Wonderful to have you on board. Community of practice is also looking at some issues around information sharing and all of those sorts of things. So some nice meaty topics that we're going to get stuck into. And the other kind of meaty policy topic that we're going to be looking at later on this year and moving into next year is the whole foundational supports and targeted psychosocial supports under the NDIS. So if that's something that's of interest to you, keep an eye out in our social media and newsletter we'll probably have some focus groups or consultations to get your views on what we should be putting forward to the Queensland Government and to the federal government through Mental Health Carers Australia. So that's coming up. We did a bit of work yesterday thinking about what kinds of issues that we might look at policy and advocacy next year. We've got a whole list of things which we will share with you through the newsletter, but we know that one of them is going to be a focus on young carers and how we can actually work with schools, education system, community to better identify and support young carers. So lots of interesting things coming up over the year ahead as we continue these other projects. So I want to thank you for all the amazing input that you gave last year. We revisited it yesterday and there's so many more things that we can continue to work on. So if you're interested in getting involved or just knowing more about what we're continuing to do to advocate for families and carers, come up and have a chat to any of us. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sue. Thank you so much for that. Could everybody give her a warm thank you again, please? I just want to acknowledge the phenomenal amount of work that's happened in the last 18 months to get that. We've been doing informal advocacy for a long time, but to formalise it and have such a significant amount of work done in such a short time is incredible. So I just want to thank you, Sue, for your leadership and your guidance to that. And hopefully we can bring the Canadian folks over next year or maybe get you over there. A wonderful piece of example of looking at carers across the world are experiencing the same issues and how we collaborate to make sure that everybody gets what they need from their caring role. So thank you, Sue, and the team. I really appreciate it. Next, I'd like to introduce you to the formidable Alex Tyson. So Alex is the General Manager of Carer Programmes and Advocacy. Alex has been with the organisation now twice. She went away for a while and then missed us so much that she came back. And under Alex's leadership, we have grown the carer services and advocated for the establishment of the advocacy. So everything that you see and the growth that's happened has actually been under Alex's leadership, not mine. So if we could welcome her up to the stage, please.
She's very kind. Thank you very much. I was feeling quite emotional before just looking out into the room here. Every year the forum just gets bigger and better, and we're just so pleased to have you here. And like Emma was saying, you are the VIPs of the day, so we really just want to say thank you very much for being here. And to everyone online, because that gets bigger every year as well, just making sure that we're getting there out to people in different regions. So I feel very proud for what's been achieved in the last year, and I hope to give a few highlights of that for you here. I'm not very good with clickers, so I hope I get this right.
Just the green button. Yeah.
There we go. You'll probably see a few familiar faces that are out in the audience here today, but we've got so many amazing programs through the Carer Support program. We have the 24-hour phone line, which has been going as many people would know, right from the very beginning, nearly 50 years we've had the phone line happening. And Julie, who put her hand up before, do you mind putting your hand up again? Julie oversees all the volunteers who we coordinate for the 24-hour phone line. And we wanted to give a big shout out to the volunteers because without them we couldn't provide that line. During the day we've got staff, at night time from 10 p.m. till 8:30 in the morning we've got staff as well putting the phone line, but otherwise it's the volunteers. So we've really at the moment looking for more volunteers if anyone's interested in that, and give some amazing training for people to be part of that program. But the phone line is often the first point of call that someone will have contact with the Arafmi. And often people don't even know why they're calling, they're not really sure, but it's an opportunity to have the phone answered by someone who gets it and understands. So we listen and we're able to provide information, help people navigate systems and help people connect with the right support. So it's incredibly important, that phone line, and we're very pleased. I think with the numbers that we've got under there, that's in the last year, 2,150 over that number of calls have come to that line and people being supported. So that's massive. That keeps growing every year. And that phone line, because it is 24 hours, we really want to be promoting it so that people know that at any point during the day they've got someone there and someone who's got their back and to listen. We also get a lot of referrals through the police, and that's been a partnership over a number of years as well. So police might get called out to a home, there might be something that happens. They identify in that situation that there's someone who's a family member who's struggling a bit with the person they're supporting with mental health, so they refer it into us as well, and then that comes through the phone line as well. Probably a lot of people don't realise that, but we do get a lot of referrals through the phone, through the police, who those people would probably never have had contact with us at any point, so that's good to know. I'm going to give a big shout out to World Wellness Group. I don't know if Paul is in the room, she might be outside, but Ainor, do you mind standing up? Ainor is our culturally and linguistically diverse coordinator, and we've got a partnership. Oh, we'll go on, we'll give you a clap too, yeah. Woo! Funded through Queensland Health, we have a partnership with World Wellness Group for culture care, and that program provides individual supports. We've got support groups, and we've also got retreats that we do. We've done a male carer retreat, we've done different cultural groups. We have opportunities in language through World Wellness Group. We have different workers who can come and provide workshops with us. We also do work with community leaders because they're carers as well, and they may not realise that, so we do some work with them. So Ainor and the team with World Wellness Group has done some amazing work, so thank you very much. And I think you're in the photo, of course you are. Always in a photo, which is great. Another couple of things which we do, which we're very proud of, and a lot of people really get a lot of benefit out, is the education program that we've got and the support groups that we've got. So I'm going to ask Ben, Tina, Tanya and Cheryl to stand. Oh no, Cheryl's looking at me going, do I have to? Yes, you do. So big shout out. Oh, Tina's up the back there. So Tina manages the carer support team, but the four amazing people here do a lot of the education programs, including our eCPR, motivational interviewing, all the workshops that we do online and face-to-face, plus also the support groups that we have. Cheryl and Tina have just come off the plane last night from Charleville. They've been out there networking, just making sure that people are aware of what Arafmi is doing in that region out there, and also training up some people to provide support groups in that region. So we do a lot of partnerships across the state. We've got a partnership with Nimai in Townsville to run support groups, and then we also train up volunteers to run support groups, and I'm pretty sure we've got some of our volunteer support group facilitators here, including Celine. Do you mind putting your hand up? Celine started the Karoi Mental Health Support Group or Connection Group in the last year, which is fantastic. We've also, big round of applause, because that's... to get a new support group off the ground is no easy feat. So it really is about getting out there and connecting with people who may not realise they're mental health carers and making sure that they know that they've got support there. So we've got, I think we've got about 6 volunteer support group facilitators who we train, and then we provide ongoing support too. So they're all different places across the state. So big shout out to all of them. With the support groups, again, the numbers are amazing. So over 265 support groups in the last year. So that's a lot of connection happening in communities. And for many people, that's a place where they just feel like they get hope and they come with other people who really understand them. So thank you for that. And with the education program, over 255 workshops as well. So a lot happening and a lot growing. We've also been listening to what people want, particularly through surveys and the one-on-one calls and the coaching and support groups about what sort of workshops they want. So we're designing and reviewing workshops constantly, and we've got some new ones up our sleeves coming soon. Now, this is always a fun one to highlight, the overnight respite. We've got the beautiful Leah and Mareka up the back. Woohoo! We were very fortunate to be able to refurbish a fabulous place in Tenerife, which many people here will have had the opportunity to visit or stay in. So you can stay for 1 to 3 nights. It really is a very powerful place to have a breakaway from your personal situations. We often have people arrive and burst into tears because they can't believe this is there for them. I'm going to get emotional because that's Irene's job. She does that. Yeah, because I think often people don't go, hey, you need a break as well. Like, you're not thought of as the most important people, and it is really important that you have that space away. So Mareka and Leah both do an incredible job designing and tailoring that experience to make people feel really welcome and valued. So we've had over 410 nights where people have stayed in the last year, which is a lot, and we do overnight retreats as well. Letitia, who was here before, she partners with us and her husband to do a lot of those retreats, and they've been really fabulous as well. So a big thank you to both of you and everyone who's been able to access those. I'm not even doing my little clicker, am I? Sue mentioned about young carers, and that really is something that we're very passionate about. Many people who use our services who might be 20, 30, 40, 50, 60s, 70s, even in their 80s, will identify that they were a young carer and they're still impacted by that later in their lives. So we really realise that we need to be doing a better job across the whole state, well, across the whole nation really, of identifying who is a young carer and what supports can we put in place early on so that people aren't impacted later in their life or the impact is minimised. Because many young carers will continue caring throughout most of their lives or be impacted by it. So a couple of initiatives which we're really proud of is, and I'm going to make Tanya stand up again. Tanya's done some amazing work with Anna and Dr. Suzanne Armstrong with the eCPR program that we have, adapting that for young carers. So that's the first in Australia, so big shout out, and I'm going to get more to that. On your table, you'll see a flyer about the next youth eCPR coming up, and that would be great if you can promote that. It's an amazing experience. Have a chat to Tanya. She can talk you all about that. It's a 2-day program. We also have a retreat, which we're doing later in the year in Carers Week. We've got an amazing lot of partners who are helping us with the young carer space as well. And with the partners, we've just produced this young carer fact sheet, which is to help people understand who is a young carer and how are they impacted. So I encourage you to grab one of these from the front desk. We've got out with the Arafmi stall there. But just wanted to say this is a whole partnership. We've got Young Carer Network across Queensland where we meet 4 times a year to highlight the needs of young carers. And we've got Carer Gateway Wellways, part of that partnership, Carers Queensland, Eating Disorders Queensland, Head to Health Queensland, Headspace, Kids Helpline, Kookaburra Kids, Little Dreamers and Mind Bank. So wonderful to all work together and try and make a difference. And all of you here can help us with that as well. I know I'm going to get a little sign because I talk too much. What have I got? 2. Okay, I can do that. very quickly, raising awareness is something that we're always working on in the background. So all of the team here are out chatting with people, trying to make sure that they're aware of what we're doing, but more importantly, who are mental health carers and how we can support them. We've got a number of carer peer workers here. There were a lot of people came to a morning tea where we just spent some time really hearing what's happening across Queensland and different parts from the carer peer workers, and also doing some work with community leaders. And then most importantly, very importantly, on the next slide, and I'm going to make Lauren and Amanda stand up because that's what you've got to do. A big thank you to Lauren and Amanda, who are here representing Wellways Carer Gateway. And as Irene said, we've expanded the partnership we've got with them, which means that we can have workers across the state really there for mental health carers and helping them navigate the Carer Gateway and make sure that they can get access to the amazing supports that are there. So we do have some people online who are watching, who are in that team today. We have a few people away. Holly, who's the manager, is away, but in the room here are Carer Gateway staff. We've got Sarah and Mareka, if you can stand up. So these are the Arafmi Carer Gateway staff. Woo-hoo. If you've got any questions, please come and speak to them today, but we are very, very pleased to have that partnership, and it really just does mean that we can be in more places across the state. The photo down the bottom there was the opening of the hub in Cairns. So Wellways has opened hubs across different parts of Australia where carers can actually come in and just meet and just have some quiet time, but can equally meet some of the staff and help them get access to the supports they need. All right. I probably went over time, and I forgot I had a prize. And Irene likes to give prizes, so very quickly, just put your thinking hat on. The first person put their hand up who knows the number for the 24-hour phone line gets a prize. Whoa! All right, can you say it out loud? See if I get it right. 1300 554 660. Yay! Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex. And interesting around the phone line, I've been asked a few times, but because I've never directly called it, there's a few times where I've gone, oh, it's 1300. Hang on, let me get my cards out. So well done for having that at the top of your mind. Thanks, Alex. Look, again, phenomenal work done and such. We have a small team. Like we're the only state-based funded service specifically for mental health carers, and we absolutely punch above our weight in terms of everything we do, and we can only do that with the dedication and energy of the carer team. So thank you so much. Now, just before we go on to, Emma's going to do a bit of an exercise, but I just want to highlight one of the other things to promote. Now, advocacy isn't just about speaking to politicians or knocking on doors. Advocacy can also be about providing solutions to things that are not working. So we try and do things in a way where if we have an issue that we want to raise, we actually want to find some solutions for it as well. And we've been very lucky. As part of my role, I'm also part of the Queensland Carers Advisory Council, which is a ministerial council that's brought together to tell government what carers need for changes. And I'm the mental health carer representative on that council. And one of the things that we've heard feedback from you and other carers for many years is that often when the person you care for is receiving either treatment in hospital or treatment in outpatients, that you're not always part of the conversations or part of the treatment or part of the solutions, or I can see a lot of people nodding. So we've known that for a long time, but we went, okay, it's all very well telling people that that's not working, but what do we do to support? So with the support and permission from Mental Health Carers Australia and a few other bodies, we've been able to take a resource that already existed, which was called the Practical Guide for Supporting Mental Health Families and Carers, and taken some of that and developed a new resource for carers across Queensland. Now, in your bags, you'll see that there's a document here. Thank you. And I'll look suspiciously, Renee, so that it can be used. But there's the document here called Working with Carers, Families and Kin. And we've used this and it's been in consultation with clinicians, GPs and other allied health professionals, and most importantly, use family members and carers, but also so consumers. And this guide's designed so it's 1 minute, 1 page. We've got a website as well, workingwithcarers.com.au. one click, 1 minute. So it's a really easy, quick guide for healthcare professionals to try and learn how to better engage with families and carers when your loved one is getting support or treatment. Now, it's not mental health specific. We've designed it for any kind of carers because we thought, why would we want to share this resource? But some really practical, easy to read information in it. It is designed for people who are working with the person you care for. But you can give this to people when you're working with them. If you're going to see a GP or if you're caring for your person and you've got an outpatient session or the person's about to be discharged, you can bring this along and go, hey, can I give you a copy of this to read? At the back, there is some just really lovely, engaging, nice to easy read resources. So it's things like tips for including you in the person's care. There's lots of really short but informative information for people about why carers are really important in the care cycle and how to engage you the whole way through. So we don't have time to go through it today, but we are working with Queensland Health and a bunch of other different areas. The lovely Dee's been phenomenal at getting us into the Royal College for Psychiatry, so we're going to talk to them next week. I spoke to some registrars across Queensland for the psychiatrists last week, was able to talk to Royal Brisbane Hospital this week. So we are going out across the state to try and speak to all of the PHNs and HHSs about making sure that this is front and centre in any kind of training or resources that people have. So it's here, we're not going to go through it today, but just wanted to share that these are not just resources for people to use, but they're good advocacy resources as well, because if we want a change, sometimes we need to show people what the change is and help them along with it. So this is a nice resource to do that. So thank you to Sue and Farina for getting it. It's been in production for quite a while. We've been talking about it for a while, but Sue and Farina have managed to get the content finalised, and to the wonderful Anna and Marketing who put it all together to make it easy to access and resource. So I'll pause there and welcome back the wonderful Emma Griffiths to take us into morning tea.
Okay, but don't go. So we do have morning tea at 10:30. We'll be back at 11. If you need, you have a special dietary request, there is a separate table for you. And in the next session, we have some very powerful people in the room that I mentioned earlier. So morning tea is also your chance to put up a question for them. And just to reiterate, to keep it a general sort of question. So this is a chance as well today to connect with people that you would share, I've got no doubt, some experiences in your mental health care journey as a carer. And so we have these cards. These are get to know you cards, developed and designed wonderfully. I think Alex has been involved in this, but also our terrific marketing team as well. And so you have questions there. They prompt a bit of conversation with somebody at the table. So I've got one for you, Irene. What is your secret talent?
Well, apart from just being all round wonderful and that's not secret. I can guess the baddie in a movie or a TV show within the first 10 minutes, without fail.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's pretty good.
Thank you.
But remind me never to watch a murder mystery with you.
Yeah, it's not fun.
Okay. All right. What else?
I'm going to ask you one.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
That's not supposed to happen.
There we go. Emma, where is the most beautiful place you have ever been, apart from Arafmi's head office?
Oh, Arafmi's head office is so beautiful. So is the Peak office.
Yeah, and the hub.
And the hub. Oh, the Respite House. That's beautiful. I think anywhere in nature. Anywhere in nature. Just automatically feel more relaxed around trees. I'm such a tree hugger. Okay, one more for you. What's your favourite expression? Like, group of words to say. Mine's cooey, cobber digger bluey. Yeah, yours?
I'm not allowed to say mine at the forum because I was told not to swear. Get stuff done. But we'll replace the word stuff with something else, but that's my favourite saying. Ivan's heard it at a forum before and I had to apologise. So I'm not going to, I promised I wouldn't swear today, so I'm not going to, but get stuff done.
Yeah. I think you know the other S word that she's talking about. Okay, so those cards are there for you. That'll see us through to 10:30 for morning tea. You can book in for a massage as well. See people at the stalls outside for some specific advice. Get a headshot, a photo for you. Enjoy. Okay, we're getting ready to start our panel. If I could ask you to please take your seats. We are going to start in 1 minute. So I would like to invite our panellists up. Irene, you're on the panel. Dee Backman-Hoyle from Mental Health Carers Australia. We have the Queensland Mental Health Commissioner, Ivan Frkovic. If I could ask you to just take your seats now, please, Anna. Maybe you could help me. Anna Gavrilis. We need people ushered to their seats now. We have Federal Assistant Minister for Mental Health, Emma McBride. I'll ask you to come up to the stage, please.
Arafmi, what we'll do, we're going to, so Ivan, Frkovic and Dee and myself sitting on a panel, but you still have the 5-10 minutes to do your speech and then sit down, and then we're going to do Q and A.
Okay.
The questions that we might, I'll just put in for questions might be around I've kind of laid one out there.
Sorry, can I get the
Yeah.
Okay, if you can just take your seats, we're going to start our panel now. Hope you enjoyed that morning tea and you've had a chance as well to get to know each other. Now, if you've been reading our newsletters this year, and Arafmi has a monthly newsletter that goes out, then you would know that there are some big changes coming to the mental health system. Moving away from the NDIS being involved in much of mental health and shifting it back to new services that look like they'll be created by the states and territories. So what is that going to look like? How will they run? How will it support the people you care for? And among the questions for our panel of decision makers and advocates over the next hour, there's some of the questions there. So again, just to welcome, please, our panellists. We have Federal Assistant Minister for Mental Health, Emma McBride. Queensland Mental Health Commissioner, Ivan Frkovic. Mental Health Carers Australia's Dee Backman-Hoyle. And our CEO for Arafmi, Irene Cleland. And if you have a question, there is an opportunity to write them up here on the board. And as we're just hoping for general questions around issues that you're facing, but not specific personal information, if that's possible at all. So to start, I would like to invite Assistant Minister McBride to begin with an opening statement.
Thank you, Emma. It's a pleasure to be here today and unexpectedly to be joining a panel discussion, but here we are. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, the Turrbal people and the Jagera peoples, and pay my respects to elders past and present. I extend that respect to all First Nations people here with us today. Thank you to Irene for inviting me to speak today, and also acknowledge Ivan, Dee Backman-Hoyle, and everyone here with a lived and living experience of mental health, including carers, family and kin. I am genuinely honoured to have been reappointed as the Assistant Minister for Mental Health and Suicide Prevention, and really keen to continue our work together. And I believe that we're gathering momentum born from dedication, compassion and strength in this room and beyond. Your support makes a significant difference to the lives of those living with mental health challenges. Your lived experience continues to shape how we understand and improve mental health systems here in Queensland and right across the country. And I'm personally grateful for the advice, very frank and open, and the contribution that so many people have so generously given. Because it's only by working together that we will genuinely see the change that so many of you have been advocating for, have been working towards, and have been part of. And our government recognises that people with lived and living experience, including families, carers and kin, have an absolutely central role in shaping systems, designing services, and making sure that they have the impact that they're intended to. And I want to continue to make sure that your voices are central to meaningful and lasting change. Our government has invested $7.5 million to set up and run 2 independent national mental health lived experience peak bodies, one representing consumers and the other representing families, carers and kin. The National Mental Health Peak Body for Families, Carers and Kin, led by Mental Health Carers Australia, is a big step forward towards people with lived and living experience of caring for those with mental ill health having a say in mental health systems and services. And I'm pleased that all states and territories are represented on the board, with Arafmi being the Queensland representative. We understand that Australia's 3 million unpaid carers make a significant contribution in our community. The development of a new national carer strategy was an election commitment from the first term of our government. This strategy is a step forward for carers broadly, but we must go further. Mental health carers face unique and complex challenges, and it is vital that we deepen our understanding and strengthen the support available to meet their specific needs. We've heard from stakeholders, including Arafmi, we want carers to feel valued and to know that they have the support they need to lead full lives while caring. We have heard from stakeholders, including Arafmi and Mental Health Carers Australia, about the discrimination that persists with mental health, leading many to avoid identifying as a carer in an effort to protect the person that they are caring for or love. It highlights the very real fact that carers of people with mental ill health have specific challenges and also their own individual support needs. I know that mental health is also a critical issue for carers themselves. The relentless nature of caring often leaves carers physically and emotionally exhausted and economically impacted. During consultations, 86% of carers reported challenges in maintaining their own mental well-being. And as a former specialist mental health pharmacist who worked in acute inpatient units in a busy regional hospital, I know it's hard seeing someone you care about in distress or end up in crisis. It can take a toll on your own well-being and that of your families and friends, which is why our new Medicare mental health centres are designed to support carers too, by design and with intention. We're rolling out a network of 91 Medicare mental health centres across the country. More than 40 are now open, including services located outside our major cities, with more to come. These centres are designed to provide a safe and welcoming place where everyone can access free and confidential mental health advice and support for carers and kin too. They offer immediate support for people in distress, as I said, including their family and carers. And services are free for everyone who walks in the door with no appointment or referral necessary. And I'm pleased to hear that in Queensland, Arafmi works in partnership with carer gateway service provider Wellways to deliver supports and services to mental health carers. Your input in how this can work better to support mental health carers is always welcome and valued. Our government commits nearly $200 million each year to support carers through the Carer Gateway, and I know people want to see change. This funding helps provide services, information, early intervention, and at best build capacity to improve wellbeing and the long-term outcomes for carers. I think we can agree that a lot of work has been done, but much more is needed. And I want you to know that the voices of mental health carers will be heard every step of the way. I have a deep appreciation for your advice and willingness to share your insights and experiences. Australia's mental health system reforms are stronger for it. Thank you for your advocacy and your generosity in sharing your lived experience.
Thank you so much, Assistant Minister Emma McBride. And I think that actually answers one of the questions that's been put up on the wall here for the Assistant Minister around setting up those specific bodies and funding them nationally, one for carers and one for consumers. And in fact, working for the one for carers, Mental Health Carers Australia, is Dee Backman-Hoyle here on our panel. Now, thank you very much, Assistant Minister. I know you have to leave at past for another event. I just ask Ivan Frkovic, please, just to give us a couple of minutes of your thoughts around mental health carers and the future of mental health in Queensland.
Thank you. Look, I'll be brief. Sure, we want to have an interaction and discussion with the Assistant Minister, but just give you a quick update. Building on what the Assistant Minister said, particularly from a federal level, there's a lot happening also at the state level. We've had a major investment in mental health, which continues even with the change of government, close to $2 billion, which has been unprecedented in terms of supporting mental health, drug and alcohol and suicide prevention in this state. And I've been in the game for a long time, and I've never seen that sort of investment in mental health, which is fantastic and complements the investments which the federal government is doing. As a result of that, and I'll be quite brief, a lot of money has gone into building up the sort of more severe end of the system, which is the clinical state-based system. And it's certainly, the bulk of it has gone onto hospital and community clinical services provided by particularly the Department of Health. But quite a reasonable amount has also gone to the non-government sector, both drug and alcohol and mental health, in terms of broader psychosocial support type of programs, including some of the money that you've heard that's come to Arafmi as a result of the levy introduced by the government. What's also been interesting, as a result of sort of lifting that part of the system and getting support, the federal government has built a new front door to mental health, if I can call it that way, around the new Medicare mental health centres, which is, there's no exclusion criteria. It's an open door for people to come in. You don't have to be at the extreme end or at the low end. It's an opportunity. And that's the bit that's been missing. There is a gap between, for example, people who've got severe mental illness and then people who can have their mental health problems and challenges managed by a GP and a private psychologist through your 10 sessions. I think the Medicare mental health centres provide that link and can deal with people with sort of mild, sort of moderate, but also to some degree, some of the people that experience more the severe end of the spectrum. So I've seen the system start to build. Within that, I have to say, even though we've got, Commonwealth investment and state investment in terms of supporting carers, I hope that particularly when we look at that foundational support, which is still a big gap for people that are not in the NDIS, and I've got some information around the NDIS as well, we seem to be now on the downward trend in terms of how many people are applying, but even in addition to that, how many people are actually gaining access into the NDIS for psychosocial support. And that's not a 2 or 3% drop over the last 2 or 3 years. We're talking about 30-40% drop. So we need to get more people to be applying for NDIS, and we need to know why people aren't and why the numbers are going down. We also know that nearly 3,000 people annually actually with psychosocial exit NDIS support. I think these are some of the challenges. So that's why that foundational support is so critical, to be able to support people who don't have an NDIS package. And it's critical that within that, it's not just supporting people who have and are living with mental illness. It's also 1 minute to go, as she tells me. It's also people that care for them. So we've got to try and do that. And just finally, we are doing some work around stigma and discrimination, which is a big issue in terms of people reaching out for support and help, but also carers and family members feel the stigma just as greatly. And finally, moving the system to much more of a trauma-informed approach in Queensland. We can talk about more investment, etc., but if we continue to operate the way we are and we don't clearly understand the traumatic experiences that people have had, which have resulted in a whole range of mental health challenges, we're not going to be able to really help them. So that's just a quick overview, but I'm happy to answer some questions.
And well done, sir. Sticking to time. Gotta love it, don't you? So one of the things that we've done in the room this morning, just one of the activities to build connection among the mental health carers here is to go through those cards that are on the table, getting to know you. And I really loved one of the there's such great questions there. But one that I just wanted to ask the Assistant Minister while we've still got you here, and we've got microphones on the tables there in front. Hopefully they're switched on. One was, what was something you loved doing as a child?
I loved playing netball. Absolutely loved playing netball. I love team sport. I love being part of, the local competition. And I was just at the grand final day at my local Wyong District Netball Association, and tomorrow night I'm going to go along to present some end-of-season trophies to our Central Coast netballers. So for me, it's something that I've always loved being part of a team.
Okay, what position
sports.
did you play?
Goal defence.
Oh, me too, before I stopped growing.
Here
That's
if you
awesome.
need. Here
You've
if you
still
need.
got the height. Well, that's lovely to know. Do you get involved at all in the Parliament House sports teams? Because I know the MPs get out there sometimes.
Yeah, there is a parliamentary sports program, and yes, I have been able to play netball and be involved in different sports. But I guess it's being part of something that, separate to work and where you meet people from all walks of life and get to have some fun.
Awesome. Yep. And it's a generally a non-contact sport, so that's quite good too, yeah? Generally. Now, so today on the panel we have two decision makers here, one federally, a decision maker, a top-level influencer, let's call you that, Ivan, as Queensland Mental Health Commissioner, and two senior advocates for you on the national and the state stages in Dee Backman-Hoyle nationally and Irene, of course, in the state. So first to the decision makers / influencers on our panel, and it's a question, why should mental health carers regard you as an ally? Assistant Minister, would you like to go first?
I would hope that in the time that I've been in this role, but really my whole reason for working within Parliament, in the government, is because of the experiences that I had in my professional background and also my personal experiences. And I think bringing my personal experience and my professional background together has given me a real desire to be part of change. And I know the only way that we can do this is walking alongside each other. And I hope that that's always what we intend to do. And sometimes we don't get it right. But I hope that people kind of can have faith that I'm doing this in good faith and alongside them.
Lovely, thank you. And Ivan?
Hello. My take on that is that clearly I think since I've even started working in mental health some 30 years ago, for me I've realised at a very early stage that everything we do is about the people with lived experience, but also families and carers. And the system really can only change if we listen to you and what you want out of that system. That's been something that's been, and I could talk about where I got that from and the whole history. Even my experience at Walston Park Hospital, where as a student, as a social work student, I could see the importance of lived experience and carers and families in terms of driving change. It's the only way that we're going to really achieve some of the change that we want, is your active engagement, participation, but in many instances also leadership about what's needed.
And so to the advocates sharing the stage then, thank you. Yes, applause for Ivan and Emma. Woo! Yeah. It's wild applause, right? Dee Backman-Hoyle from Mental Health Carers Australia. What more does state and territory and the federal government, what more do you need to see?
Great light question to start with. Hi everyone, my name's Dee and I'm from the sunny coast. So you're hearing me as someone from National, but I'm up the road. I think one of the key things, and a lot has been covered off already, but we are hearing a lot about foundational supports. And to answer the question about why people aren't applying for NDIS packages, I think there's almost a jungle drum beat out there that it's not worth it. That the effort and energy and the administrative burden that comes with it and jumping through hoops and the very difficult conversations we have with our loved ones about, for the last potentially how many years we've sat alongside of you with a sense of hope and optimism towards a recovery future for you, and yet we're talking to you now about applying for something that confirms permanency. So there is a very, very difficult tension about how we have to sell a story to get the support we rightly need, but it comes at a cost for a collective hope. I want to say I'm a bit of an imposter here. Katrina Armstrong is my boss who's overseas. She is the cabinet table person. I'm your kitchen table person. I'm the one that hangs out with families and is in the weeds with you, living it, and we talk about the 3 L's, the lost, the living, and the lived. So we never forget that. So one of the questions is there's fatigue around the possibility of even being accepted for NDIS. There are leakages everywhere around psychosocial disability being removed completely, and what that will mean. And we don't know if that's fact or fiction, but the rumour's out. So there's quite a few things there. But what I do want to say, Emma, is thank you for you're one of us. We see you as one of us. We see you as a strong ally. We see you as someone who understands the pain and who gets it. So we want to work really, really closely with you on that.
Hear, hear, Dee. And Irene.
Thanks, Dee. And can I just reiterate, thanks to Assistant Minister, Emma was at your first speech at Mental Health Australia when you came into government, and I saw how emotional you were around the opportunities that you had to step up mental health services, and you talked really strongly about the importance of lived and living experience and the funding of the national peaks, and your commitment to making that happen. So, and it's hard sometimes, I think, for both state and federal to get runs on the board. But I remember your voice wobbling at that point and going, I wanted to give you a hug. But then I was like, it's really important that we do those things. So I agree with Dee, we do see you as an ally in that. And same with Ivan from a state-based level. Like, I know you're a very diplomatic commissioner, and I think we're in line with how we manage things, but you do a lot of things behind the scenes to help move the carer component forward. In terms of, from a decision maker perspective about what next is, sometimes things happen quite slowly, and we recognise that in the mechanisms of government and policy that those things they have to happen slowly. But I think having some quick wins and some really practical examples of things that can benefit are really helpful to help keep carers going. I know you'll know the statistics, but in any given year, mental health carers provide $13.4 billion to the economy in unpaid care. Like that's bigger, and it's almost close to the actual workforce in the mental health space nationally. So I think giving mental health carers some hope that things can change and seeing some practical examples of that. Some of the things that we can say from a state-based perspective, we do see some small changes. Ivan and the Commission team were very supportive of providing funding to uplift our advocacy in Queensland 2 years ago. So that was a really big important step, and some of the areas that you're looking at now around lived and living experience really give us hope that there are changes to the future. So that's, from a state-based perspective, that's what we'd want to see, some quick, short, sharp wins, practical examples of what can change, and that longer on-term ongoing support for funding and resources.
Okay. So hearing there about our allies and supporters that we've got on state and national stages, I'm wondering, Assistant Minister, if you could give us an idea of some of your hopes of what will eventuate when we see all of these changes roll out, when the NDIS foundational supports those psychosocial services, what do you hope will happen?
Yeah, and I also know some people find the term psychosocial quite jarring.
Yeah,
so, but it's the language that we have. As you would all be aware, each state and territory was given responsibility to do what was termed an unmet needs analysis to work out, people who were otherwise not receiving support, living with psychosocial disability. And it would be no surprise to you that the estimates before this work was done was far fewer than the ultimate numbers that we saw. But again, it would be no surprise to you. I'm working with my senior minister, Minister Butler, on listening to you and others about how we might reshape this. And I absolutely take the point, Dee, about when with my whole time working in mental health and suicide prevention has been about recovery and a strength-based approach. And then the NDIS is really to show significant and permanent disability. So there's some advocates that I've heard from that in principle don't think that the NDIS fits or aligns with their view of themselves or those who they're caring for. And being frank with the room, and I wasn't in the parliament at the time, but Ivan and others would know, was that if we're being really honest, is that psychosocial disability was tacked on. Some people might have been part of Every Australian Counts, and I, recognise the work that people did in their advocacy, really about choice and control, about agency, but mental health was tacked on. So this, and I also appreciate that change also makes people feel really uneasy, and as difficult as the NDIS is, it's something that people know and are familiar with, and change does concern people. But I hope to reassure you that we're doing this in good faith and walking alongside you. And now we've got our 2 national peaks. And I know that's not the only way that people can provide advocacy, but I was determined after seeing this work that was started by Mental Health Australia and others more than a decade ago and languished, determined to make sure that those peaks were set up, were properly resourced, and they're doing really good and important work. And I know a lot of work, which we're so grateful for. And early in the new year, we'll be setting up the first national body for lived experience, the association, because we want to professionalise and mobilise lived experience. I don't just want someone with lived experience to be in an entry-level role in one of the services that we have. In some of them, in North and in Western Australia, the manager of one of our mental health, Medicare mental health centres is someone with lived experience. So we want to mobilise and professionalise lived experience, and we'll also, if there's some people in the room interested, doing a survey early next year to understand where lived experience sits, in what sectors, in what settings, to get a more granular understanding of that. So when the Peak Association is set up, it's got the most up-to-date and robust information to build from.
I think, Minister, we have to let you go now. But you remember earlier when I said wild applause for Irene? Could we have some wild applause now for Emma McBride, please? We know you're busy, so very appreciative. Our own little national mini national press club happening there. Thanks very much, Minister. And so, Ivan, on the same question, because the states are obviously one of the key negotiators in how these services are going to be rolled out, what would you like to see? What are you advocating for, I guess, when you're in those meetings?
I think it's important to understand the context from a state perspective. States initially, when the NDIS was established, cashed in a lot of their psychosocial support dollars and gave it to the NDIS. Which means that, we've given up the money that we used to invest in psychosocial support. Queensland, and we were fortunate enough that Queensland didn't cash out everything. We cashed out 50%. But 50% of not a lot of investment at the time anyway. So the reality is that, for example, if you remove the NDIS, Queensland spends about 4.8% of the total mental health budget, mental health budget, on psychosocial support type of activity. 4.8%. Now, I'll give you an example where, for example, some HHS services, they don't call them HHS, but like our HHS boundaries, in New Zealand, where they're invested from their HHS budget, their mental health budget, between 20 and 30% in psychosocial support. Guess what? They didn't have the same problems with ED presentations. They didn't have the same problems in bed block, etc. And people and families felt better supported in the community in situ. So I think we've got some learning from that to do that. We have to increase that investment. And not just, and again, I think there's a bit of nuancing here. Yes, it is about more support for our people who live with mental illness, but as equally as important is about providing support to families and carers. As Irene said, if we're going to benefit as a system, as a society, from $13 billion worth of support that's provided by carers, we have to invest in supporting them. And I think that's the bit that's really hard to shift at the moment, because the bulk of the dollars, even what's in there, goes into basically supporting people with mental illness. And can I tell you, a package, an NDIS average package now for people with psychosocial disability is nearly $100,000. It is $100,000.
A year? A year?
Yeah. And what that means is that we've got people in the NDIS package who've got a package quite well supported, but it's a small group of people compared to what we used to support before. So a small group of people have now got bigger packages, while a lot more people are missing out on anything at the moment. That's what's happened with the shift to the NDIS. And particularly, even when you get a package, in Queensland, for example, if I've got a package which is on average, say, about $100,000, I'm only spending about $60,000 off that. There's nowhere to purchase the other bits. No one wants to deliver those services. So there are some fundamental challenges in the psychosocial space for us in terms of both the volume of the packages for a small group of people, large group of people missing out, but also inability to spend our total package.
Irene?
Thanks, Ivan. And I just want to add to that, having come from Arafmi's just exited the NDIS space as well, and not to bag NDIS in any way. But there are lots, I think back when there was more block funding and when the funding that got cashed out, that was all managed through funding agreements where you had to have registration, you had to have quality audits. Right. There was a lot of regulations around staffing and how you manage things, and quite rightly so. We're working with very vulnerable people at times. You should have well-trained, well-equipped staff. And the challenge that we've seen is there's a highly unregulated market of NDIS providers who do not have training for people who are living with suicidal thoughts. They do not recognise the need to support families and carers and that as well. And probably some of the areas where people aren't accessing their package is because it's not just that there isn't supports, there's not the right supports when they're able to get them, and it's not regulated particularly well.
And Irene and Dee, just to come back to you on that then, what would you hope are the services that we see after this process is finished? Like, is there a percentage of community-based services versus, a percentage of the funding to go into clinical? Maybe I'm getting too specific there, but what are you advocating for when you speak to federal decision makers, Dee?
I'll add to what Irene just said. I've just come off a call not long ago with a group of carers from another state who said, is anyone investigating the dynamic and the interactions between NDIS workers and families? Because these people come into our homes, become part of our life, and at times we are still invisible. It's still very, very difficult at times to be seen by professionals as being support and allies, but it's also very difficult when someone comes into your home. And in some cases, it feels like an additional onus of responsibility. I mean, one person I spoke to said, I spend half an hour tidying up before the NDIS worker comes in, which sort of seems a bit counterintuitive, but we get it. We all get it. We're proud people. So, you know, that's one part of it, which is really, really difficult. I think there's a lot of things that we need to be thinking about here, which is giving people the capabilities to advocate safely. We tend to have come from an era where we've encouraged people to share personal stories, which can feel cathartic in safe spaces. And yet when we put the personal stories out there and we don't wrap them up in the systemic message that needs to come from the cumulative personal stories, they lose their power sometimes, which is heartbreaking, just heartbreaking. So what we need to do is enable people to build capability skills to say, I've got my spaces where I can do my personal sharing, cathartic reality with those I feel safe with, and I'm going to power up my story game so that when I'm in the room with decision makers, they hear the message that cuts through and means something to them, not look at me as another person with a pity story, because we are far more than that. We are far more than that. There was another part to that, Emma, and I've forgotten it.
Oh, that's okay. That's all right. That just links into another question that we had from the VIPs here, the mental health carers, and that was around whether increased media coverage, and perhaps this is to Ivan first, just in your opinion, do you think media coverage around discharge, admission and discharge issues in the state would actually help bring about some change for the better? I swear that's not a question from me.
No, that's right. Look, I think any discourse and focus on particular areas will certainly at least get, you know, governments, bureaucrats, clinicians, etc., to look at that. Clearly, that's already happening as far as I'm concerned. You can see, for example, the media coverage around ambulance ramping, and a lot of those people are people who have mental health problems, who are sitting in EDs, waiting to be seen or waiting for a bed in an acute, you know, psychiatric ward. But the problem with all of that is that, again, we've got a whole system, and sort of picking up all of this that was just discussed before, we've got a whole system that's hospital-centric. And that's our that's from my perspective, and having come from that system and worked in health for a long time, that's our fundamental problem. That's not to say, and I want to really underline this, that I'm not anti-beds or anti-hospitals. We need them, etc. But I think at the moment, our whole system revolves around hospitals. It's around beds and hospitals. And that's what I think we, in a community perception, but also that will influence government, need to change. It's not about just the hospital bed. Can I just say, you know, having been in government for a long time, we hardly ever got people writing to the minister or us in the bureaucracy saying, you know, could you fund more non-government stuff or fund more early intervention and prevention? Most of the correspondence from the community, potentially even some of yourselves, would have come about, I couldn't get little Johnny into a bed at the RBH. So what happens is, that's how the government responds. They build more beds. But in actual fact, we could do this very differently and get a better outcome for both you as families and carers, but also for your loved one that needs that support. That should be there. That should be at the back end of the funnel rather than at the front end. But at the moment, you know, as one person says, the only service that's open 24/7 is the ED department. Where do I go when there's a crisis or things? And we don't have an option to go in early. You have to be really unwell before you come. So these are the problems in the system that we've got, and that's what we're trying to shift that dial on those issues.
And Arafmi's 24/7 support line, which is 1300.
Yes.
554. 660. Is there another prize?
I'll give you a hug at the end.
Oh, that's a nice one. So, Ivan, a couple more questions from our VIPs, if that's okay. Yes. Are there any supports or incentives coming for people in correctional facilities and for when they come out of correctional facilities? This is a really tricky one, isn't it?
It is a tricky one. And again, this is, look, in general, can I just say, as a result of the introduction of the levy and through Better Care, which is the Queensland Health Plan for mental health, there is more funding going into what we call broadly prison mental health services and prison drug and alcohol. So that's supporting more people in prison who've got addiction, who've got mental health problems. But I think where we still don't have enough is that transition out of prison back into community. And that's not just about, you know, linking someone to a clinical service in the community. That's about that psychosocial support we talk. That's about housing. That's about employment. It's more than just that support. I have to say that I think we're building up the support in the prisons, but I'm not sure that we're actually doing better, and we could be doing a lot better from my perspective, in that transition of people leaving prison and making sure that we don't have the high recidivism rate, which at the moment is, you know, 50% or more people, you know, are reincarcerated within the first 12 months. And a lot of those people are people who have mental health problems.
Mm. How do we do better then? Just make it better, Ivan.
I wish I could, but, you know, I think it's about, and I had this discussion, you know, with a previous minister, when the money was first announced. And the only thing I said to her at the time was this. I said, Minister, I've publicly commended the government for this massive investment. But my suggestion, and even now in sort of in response to that question, is I did say to her one word of warning. If you invest this massive amount of money in doing more of the same, how can you expect a different outcome? Unfortunately, I didn't win that argument. Well. So to me, it's about where are we investing and prioritising. And again, that's not to say we don't need hospitals and hospitals. We do. But you've got to build these other parts of the system as well. And for us in mental health generally, you know, it's just as important in investing in housing and employment as it is in some of the clinical services. You know what I mean? We've got to get some of that balance right.
Mm. And Dee, do you have any thoughts around that one?
Look,
that you want to share?
Yeah, well, no, I agree. I agree. And a silly little story. The other day, I was in an emergency exit on a plane. Anyone else done one of those? Mm-hmm. And they ask you, "Are you willing and able to assist?" Yeah. And you go, "Yep." Sometimes at the back of your mind, you go, "But God, I hope they don't have to." Mm-hmm. Right? Just wanted the extra leg room, exactly. This week I was in a conversation regarding a discharge of a particular family member. No one asks the family, are you willing and able to assist? And it's not a case of are you willing and able to assist, can you do it again right now? So for many of us, it's a case of don't doubt our love for our person. That's unquestionable. But just ask us what's in the tank right now. Because in the absence of non-clinical spaces, we're holding things together just... Did anyone else's nana say something by the hair of your teeth? You know, something daggy like that?
Yeah, by the skin of your teeth.
The hair of your teeth. That would be scary if you had hairy teeth. But I guess you know, what feels like it could be a courtesy question on a discharge from a hospital setting would be, are you willing and able? Not, here you go again. And not making the person feel bad because they are doing their best too. So I don't know, I didn't answer a question that you had, Emma.
It doesn't matter, really, does it? You're such a beautiful speaker, Dee. Thank you so much. You can tell you really speak with the lived experience there that many people in the room have. Thank you. Irene, did you want to say something on that as well?
No, and I agree with Dean that, and to put it back to a policy component, there's all of the impact now on hospital to home. So yes, we know that whether it's mental health or other areas, patients and consumers would prefer to get their care at home, but the family members haven't necessarily been consulted, and that's sometimes people are consensual family members and want to have the family relationship, but they don't necessarily have. And we talk about consent. Are you willing to do this? Do you really have a choice? At times you might be willing to because there's love and care, but is that really what you want for your life as well? So we have to have some genuine conversations about alternatives when people don't actually want to care in the home. Like it's a whole family thing. I do want to touch on some capacity building. I had a lovely chat with Ali Kelly last week. It was up on, she does some wonderful stuff on LinkedIn, and Ali's a carer herself, and we just did a chat last week in Are You OK Day, and we talked about the value of community capacity building rather than wait until people become unwell to fix things and then fix it and then it becomes cyclical, that we actually support each other to be better equipped at managing things before they get to the point of the end. And I want to commend the Commission on a few areas. So the whole of government trauma strategy, which is about helping everybody engaged in the community, so all of government being responsible for areas that do lead to traumatic events that can cause people to become unwell or be in crisis. But you and I know it's up and coming, but the anti-stigma campaign, so crucial to what happens next, because we know that when mental illness and mental health doesn't get talked about, people don't talk about things, they don't get support, they become unwell because they don't see there's any other options. And we know that mental health families and carers don't always talk about the stories because of the stigma attached to that as well. So I think we go back to reversing things to before anybody becomes unwell or there's any issues, we talk about what works for people for a good life, for a holistic, happy well-being. And we try and just have people, when it's at the point of end, it really is the people where we haven't been able to prevent those things from happening. And from a Queensland perspective, I do think the Commission's got it right. You're working on some really positive avenues around stopping that from happening.
Well, that sort of conversation brings me as well to another question from our audience, and that is to Irene around the guide for healthcare professionals that you have been spruiking around the state. How receptive were the registrars, psychiatrists, healthcare providers to your discussions with them in the last week?
I don't know if it's surprisingly or unsurprisingly, but it was really good. But can I say before that, the first question I thought people were going to ask is how do I manage to look so young and sprightly and healthy? And my answer was going to be good, clean living and early to bed every night. But that was not the question for me. The question was about psychiatrists. So I'll tell you, so we just coincidentally got invited to do this. And I came about half an hour early to the session, and there was a psychiatrist talking about, they do case studies where they learn things, and they actually talked about a person who was misdiagnosed because they called it family collateral, and I was like, oh, that's a horrible term, but it was about listening to the family and getting what they experienced. And they made a misdiagnosis because they didn't actually ask the family the right questions. So they said, tell us what's happening. The family said, the person was having a panic attack. But they didn't go, can you talk us through what that looked like? Like, how did that look physically? What was the person saying or experiencing? So they missed a chance to actually get the right information from the family. So it was a really lovely segue into me speaking to them about it. And I used that as an example of the different types of questions you can ask people to try and get more information. There was about 15 psychiatric registrars in the room, and I think about 35 people online, and they were all very engaged. It was 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. I thought they were going to fall asleep or make excuses to go out, but they were all really engaged, and we ended up staying later to answer more questions. The biggest question that came up was around consent. So when a person's experiencing mental distress and they do not consent to their families being given the information, what else can we do? And it was good because that comes up a lot, not just with psychiatrists, but with any healthcare professional. And we said, look, we've got some nice, lovely tips around how to talk to people about things like, so you don't just go, do I have consent to talk to the family? You can ask more gentle questions about who's in your life, who worries about you, who cares for you. is it okay if I share this, or here's the benefits to sharing so that you get a better outcome from your care and treatment. So I was, I shouldn't be saying pleasantly surprised, but really it was a very engaged conversation, and one of the registrars then invited me to another session this week at the Royal Brisbane. So I think we're getting some traction on that, and I do think it's tough. I do think psychiatrists have a really tough job. They have the really challenging end of things, and sometimes they're damned if they do, damned if they don't, dependent on the decisions they make. But I think our guide and the way we phrase it's not about criticising psychiatrists or clinicians or treatment. It's about giving them the skills to help you get what you need as well. And I do think that was really well received.
Emma, can I just add to that? I'm the Queensland branch community member for the Royal Australian New Zealand College of Psychiatrists, and I spent 9 years co-chairing the National Community Collaboration Committee through the Royal Australian New Zealand College of Psychiatrists. I was hiding in plain sight as a little community member for a long time, but my gosh, I was learning a lot hiding in plain sight. And I've got to say, I'm not anti-psychiatry. I believe there are fantastic psychiatrists that have been incredibly helpful. I also believe there's some growth for some other psychiatrists to understand how family can help and assist. The challenge that we don't often understand is the business model of the health system. And if there isn't a Medicare item number that can be supported, it makes it very difficult for the best of intentioned psychiatrists to actually bring you in, because everything has a cost associated to it.
And Dee, that's a lovely segue into some of what Mental Health Carers Australia can do for advocacy, is get those items on the register. Like if, and it's fair that people who are doing the work should get paid for it, but even when you think about GPs, they don't get funding to do a carer assessment or supports for you. Our advocacy should be about making sure that that's really well supported, well informed, so that they have the time and the capacity to do it properly.
Funny you mention that. I'm on the Better Access group as well. Yes, that's one of the things. I mean, at the moment there's talk about the mental health care plan changes ahead for us all, and where the person who actually gets a mental health care plan actually has to have a diagnosis from their GP of a condition. Now, once upon a time, don't tell this to anyone else, those of us that may not have had a diagnosed condition could say life's really, really bumpy, life's really, really hard, and I need some wraparound help, and get a mental health plan. So now the changes are coming, and we'll keep you informed about those changes. But you're absolutely right. That's a big ticket item for us, is to say, do not throw a baby out with the bathwater here. Families need their own version of mental health care planning, however that looks for them.
We've got about another 10 minutes in for the panel discussion, and then we're going to go over an exercise. Alex Tyson, our General Manager, is going to take you through that around building your own allies and supporters. We'll have lunch, and then after lunch we have our keynote address from Dr. Christian Heim, psychiatrist, who is going to take us through how to get the most out of your psychiatrist, or, of course, the person you're caring for, their psychiatrist as well. A question for Ivan that was written up here by one of our mental health carers today. Do you feel that certain anxiety diagnoses are overlooked? Why do you think this happens? And in particular, dissociative identity disorder. There's a feeling there, obviously, that it's being overlooked and there's not enough.
Look, I think if you look at particularly anxiety, I think one of the major, I suppose, mental health problems that's diagnosed these days is anxiety. It's by far one of the largest. In fact, I spoke about that yesterday at the School-Based Youth Health Nurse Conference. So I think it's probably, is it recognised, is it diagnosed, etc. I think, we probably didn't diagnose this as well historically, and I think we are doing much more diagnosing of people with particularly anxiety, particularly young people. Anxiety in young people seems to be definitely on the increase. In fact, the prevalence of mental health problems amongst young people has now doubled over the last, sort of 13 years since we did maybe longer, since we did the last National Mental Health Survey. So I think we are diagnosing more, but you will hear some discourse, and not specifically around anxiety, but across a range of other types of, particularly some of those more behavioural, psychological aspects that children and young people experience. So you'll hear Patrick McGorry and others talking about maybe we're over-diagnosing some of this stuff. I think there is an issue around some of that as well. So I think we're better at diagnosing. We're seeing more young people, I suppose, experience too, particularly with anxiety. Lots of young people these days experiencing a whole range of life pressures. And I could talk to you particularly around, we spoke quite a bit yesterday around social media and the impact on social media, on mental health, on anxiety, on body image, all those things for young people. And even though it's a two-edged sword, social media can be positive if it's used well, but it can also be a huge risk, as we see. So I think we're in a phase where generally around a whole range of things, I think we're better at diagnosing a whole range of things, but I'm not sure that in a lot of those areas, as I think Patrick McGorry and a whole range of others say, maybe we're over-diagnosing at the moment. And the implications of carrying a label for the rest of your life, whatever that particular illness is, may not also be that positive.
And does it go as well to that sort of discussion that's around about anxiety and depression perhaps being the friendly face of mental health challenges, as opposed to some of the, as you say, more behavioural, the conditions that can really affect people's behaviour and perhaps lead to psychosis, that they are getting more attention?
That's definitely the case, and if you look at some of the Beyond Blue data and research, because Beyond Blue was established as a national depression initiative, so they focused on depression and anxiety around reducing the stigma and discrimination around those two. So you can see that there's a trend down in terms of people are more likely and more comfortable now to go and seek help or talk about anxiety or depression. But can I tell you, when you start talking about schizophrenia or bipolar, the general response is not in my backyard. So these are the sorts of things that we're grappling with. Some of the more chronic illnesses still nowhere near where they need to be in terms of even having an open discourse about it. While we particularly see with young people, as I said, the data was quite staggering, the increase. But that also means that young people are reaching out for services, which again is a problem because we don't have all the services in place to be able to respond to the need. So I think, yes, high prevalence disorders such as those, we're talking more about them, we're accessing more services, but some of the more chronic illnesses, psychotic illnesses, we're not seeing.
And dissociative identity disorder?
Similar, we're not.
Okay, thank you. Irene?
Thanks, Emma. Just to add to that, and I do agree that, again, with social media and more access to media, there's more engagement in those areas. I think there is absolutely negatives to that, but I think some of the positives that I'm seeing coming through, in particular with areas around psychosis or borderline personality disorder, where people haven't necessarily understood them, I'm seeing a lot more compassion coming through and a lot more understanding about what people are going through. So, and from a work perspective, that if people are struggling and they're not losing their jobs the same way, it's still not perfect by any means, but I think employers are more equipped now to look at things and go, okay, this person might be experiencing something that's possibly short-term, possibly long-term, but we can hold that space for them. And I agree, it's not perfect, but the more that we're talking about these areas and talking about the concepts of recovery and how people engage, the more compassion and support there is for them to be able to maintain happy, healthy lives.
Dee, just we'll finish up in a couple of minutes, but there's a question also for you around how do people in Queensland engage with Mental Health Carers Australia, become involved in the work that you're doing?
Do what you're doing right now, which is being in this room, in this space, absolutely plugged in with Arafmi Queensland. They are our eyes, our ears, and our absolute partners for Queensland. As well as that, you can join as a subscriber on the website. We are not even 12 months, we're just 12 months old, so we're growing. And I'm sitting here with absolute envy of everything that's being done in Queensland with Arafmi Queensland. So the goal would be, feel free always. If you're a carer, get my number, get my email. I'm living experience carer too. And that's something that you need to understand about this peak, the Mental Health Carers Australia peak. Half of our staff are living through first-hand support. So we're not coming from a purely academic or policy positioning. We're coming from, we got up this morning with some similar things that you're living with.
And we can feel that too, Dee. We're so lucky to have you as an advocate on the federal stage. Thank you so much. I reckon there's wild applause here for Dee too. Woo! I've got a question for you, Irene.
Can
Did
I
you wanna
add
say
to the
something?
D one as well? Sorry,
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
using my
okay.
Arafmi badge privilege. I just want to reiterate what Mental Health Carers Australia are trying to do is funnel through the states, because some of the issues that you might bring to us might be a state-based issue. It might be something that's local that Arafmi can specifically help with, or it might be a federal issue that mental health carers. So if it's funneled through us as best as possible, we can help put them in the right box so that we're using our resources well. But absolutely, you can contact them directly, but we would be your first point of call in the first instance.
So Irene, just on the guide for healthcare professionals, that I know everybody here has got a copy of that in your bags, and there is an opportunity with that to become a bit of an advocate in a systemic way as well by taking that to your GP or your psychiatrist, isn't there? So do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, I took it to my doctor myself. I went in, I maybe slapped him in the knee with it a little bit. And my GP's using AI now for...
I'm not sure I recommend that.
No,
but,
do not
just
slap
whatever
your doctor
you
on the knee with
think
a
is
book.
appropriate. Yeah.
But GPs are using AI a lot now in their clinical sessions. So I've been very intentionally mentioning the words that I want put in, which is healthcare guide for families, carers and kin, because it's now on my notes that's there. But yeah, if you have a copy, we're distributing some cards just with QR codes as well that you can take along. Anybody, and Alex has got some there, so nice easy card that the person can scan, because we do have the website as well. I appreciate that some people won't use a book, but it's great to have on the desk. But any opportunity that you're speaking to, and it doesn't need to just be healthcare professionals, it can be your local service providers as well, your NGOs, anybody that's engaging with the person you care for around services. If you've got a chance to engage, hey, have you seen this book? It's got some really good resources. Can we talk about it at some point? Are you aware of Arafmi for referrals for anybody else? So any engagement you've got, a nice easy plug. It is not a tool that beats people up or criticises clinicians. It's a very nice, easy into here's how we can help inform your practice.
You can, be table thumping in your own right, but
Can I just add to that?
Yes, thanks, Ivan.
While I'm here, just quickly. Apart from at the clinical level, the service level, we're also doing some work, and we've been doing some work for a while around the system work. And we've got a public commitment about how we plan to work with people who lived experience, families and carers. It's on that table there. You can have what I would also like to see is more people like yourselves involved in that more systems advocacy. And I think any chance that you get, we're certainly pushing that, the whole system should have a commitment like we've made to ensure that people like yourselves with your life experiences are at the table informing policy, informing funding, informing service delivery. So please, wherever you can, I think it's important, because we do see policy shifts. They go forward, but then they come back. And we're discussing one today in Parliament, and I'm really worried about when things start going backwards. And I think it's important that people like yourself continue to be on the front foot to drive some of this, but also to make stick some of the things that we've achieved.
Thanks so much, Ivan. And please, wild applause again for Ivan Prokovic, Dee Backman-Hoyle and Irene Cleland. So now we have half an hour for the until lunch. Right now, to take us up to lunch, there is an activity for you to do, and to explain it, Arafmi's Alex Tyson.
Sorry about that. Thank you very much, Emma. I think we've just had a very inspiring session there, listening to what's being done on a state level, what's being done on a national level. And we'd really like to bring that down now for all of you to think about in your own lives, what could be done differently to make life easier. So at each of your tables, there should be an Arafmi staff member. Can I just get the Arafmi staff to stand up? I just want to check if every table's got someone. And if they don't, can we make sure we have a staff member on each table? Who are we missing? Maybe the table down the front here. Do you mind moving to one of the other tables where you've got a staff member? You're all good? Okay, I'll come there. All right, Sue's got some packs for the staff to come and get. Staff? And while they're getting that, I'll just explain what we're going to do. I need to capture that laugh over there on the right. That was a fantastic laugh. That's very good. Thank you. All right, if I can just get everyone's attention. Every time you touch that, it goes quickly. All right. For the next 15 minutes at your table, we'd like to do an activity to help you think about what's happening in your lives locally. So often we hear from carers that they're fighting against the system, they feel like they're coming up against roadblocks, they're all on their own, they don't know where to get support, they don't know who can support them. We've heard on a national and a state level, we have some allies and supporters, but what's happening for you in your individual lives? So in your pack you'll find, or the staff member will give to you a little worksheet which we're going to work through, just thinking about in your life, who do you have at the moment that could be a supporter and ally in your personal situation, and who might be some people that you've never thought about before or never considered as supporters and allies. And I know the Assistant Minister was talking about the Medicare mental health centres. That's a place for you as a carer that you can actually go and get supports, and that's free and there's no waiting lists for that. Other supporters you might have are people who are at the stall holders here today. So outside we've got a whole range of stall holders like the Independent Patient Rights Advisors, we've got Eating Disorders Queensland, we've got Carer Gateway and Arafmi, lots of different people out there. They could be supporters that you mightn't have engaged with before. So just thinking about some different people that you might be able to use. So we're going to hand over to you guys for 15 minutes and then come back together for a few minutes at the end, and your staff member on the table will help you with this activity. Thanks. If I can just have everyone's attention, there's some great conversations happening which I don't want to finish, but I'm just giving you the two-minute warning, everyone, and then we'll be finishing up because then it'll be lunchtime. So 2 more minutes. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm now giving you the end. Sorry. If I can just have everyone's attention for a couple of minutes, I wanted to thank everyone for the amazing conversations that have happened on the tables there. I went around just sort of listening in and asking a few different questions. I hope that people found that an interesting and insightful exercise, because I think sometimes we feel like we are alone, and there are lots of supporters and allies out there which we may not even identify or be aware of. So just some of the highlights of different conversations that I was listening into around there is many people already have some family members or chosen family members. Dogs got a big mention out there for supporters, can I just say? Could we have a hand up for the cat people? Yes, thank you very much. So the supporters come in all different shapes, sizes, furry or non-furry. So that is really important because animals and nature are all part of well-being and support. But there were also people identifying health professionals, psychiatrists, could be allies, could be supporters, friends can be supporters. But there were also people identifying supporters and allies which they hadn't thought of before. Some of them were the Carer Gateway, which is the lovely colleagues up the back there, Lauren and Amanda, not pointing you out again, but also the Carer Gateway team that Arafmi has, finding out more about all those other supports that you could actually be getting through those programs is really important for your wellbeing and sustaining you as the very important VIPs who are here today. Another one was social workers, perhaps not having had contact with social workers before, but there are many social workers in different community and health as well. And another one which is incredibly important, and some people have said I've never heard of them, is the carer peer workers. So throughout Queensland, there are carer peer workers in lots of different places which you may not have heard of before or come across. And I just had a very quick conversation with 3 fantastic ones from West Moreton, and we just said, if there are carer peer workers in the room here who are comfortable, would you mind standing so people can see who you are? Yay, can we give a big round of applause to our carer peer workers? I won't do it justice to describe the great work that they do. So over your lunch break, if you wanted to have a conversation with carer peer workers, it is a chance to find out how they can help you. They have lived experience, and often when the person you're supporting is admitted to a ward, for example, they may be someone who could come up to you and help you navigate what's happening and listen and be there for you, and also be like a mini advocate within the ward as well, and in conversations that are happening with the treating team. So it is really important. These guys are living it or lived, and they do understand, and they are employed through Queensland Health so they can actually assist you to navigate some of the systems in there. So please do reach out to the carer peer workers, and if in your region you've never heard one, please ask. And now I'm getting time to go. Very good. So thank you very much. Please continue with that exercise, maybe with your family or other people at home. You might like to keep thinking about it. Please take some time to speak to the stall holders outside today too, because they're your allies and supporters that can help you in different ways. And enjoy lunch.
Yay! Lunch is served, and can I recommend, maybe you want dessert first? There are lemon meringue cannolis out there. They are awesome. Be back here at 1:15, everyone, please. Hello again, everyone. If we could just get everyone in from lunch. Certainly delicious. Who went the dessert first? Anyone? Anyone? Yes! Okay, one taker. Share the guilt, exactly. We'll just give everyone a couple of minutes to come inside and take their seats. Caroline. Mm-hmm. That's what I've got for you. I'm welcoming you both up to stage. Yeah, that's all. I think we're just going to get going. Otherwise, our afternoon will get pushed out and we'll be late for afternoon tea. I hope you save some room for that. So welcome back, everybody, to the 2025 Brisbane Mental Health Carers Forum. And to those of you who have stayed with us on the YouTube stream online, thank you very much. And hopefully you've had a nice little break as well. So we've been having a real focus today on allies and supporters and how we can build those alliances and bring about reform through those alliances and with our supporters. One of our key allies in advocating for a more accessible and more affordable mental health system is the peak body for people who use the services, and that is the Mental Health Lived Experience Peak of Queensland. It has a new CEO. I'd like to welcome Simon Cattle up to the stage, and also our CEO, Irene, with Simon to tell you a little bit about how they plan to work together.
Now, I think I'm going to speak very briefly for 5 minutes and then we'll have... Yeah, exactly. So bear with me as I get myself set up. Thank you for the opportunity to meet and speak with you all today, and in particular Irene for inviting me. I want to acknowledge, and I know you would have done this earlier today, but I want to acknowledge the Yagara and Turrbal people as the traditional owners of the land today, here today, that we gather on, and pay my respects to elders past and present, and any First Nations members here today. Sovereignty was never ceded. So I guess one of the things I was keen to talk about is, that we don't have to be the same to be a team. As CEO of Mental Health Lived Experience Peak Queensland, I know that so much of the important advocacy that we need to do together is grounded in what's the same about us and also what's different. But I think there's a common vision about the future that we want. So that's the spirit I bring to systemic advocacy. As consumers, we need to undertake this advocacy alongside families, carers, supporters and kin. We are stronger together, and it's how we manage those differences that I think is going to be the key to systemic change. But, I was thinking about this. I heard a much better speech than the one you're going to get from me for the next 4 minutes from Scott McDougall, the Human Rights Commissioner, where he sort of cast his mind forward to what a better human rights-based sort of Queensland might look like. And it inspired me to think a little bit about what this might mean in our Queensland context in mental health. And so my mind fast forwards 10 years' time to a far better mental health system, one where people live in stable housing, have adequate income support, can afford to live where they work, lead dignified lives that are free from violence, and that's racial violence, interpersonal violence, gendered violence, structural violence. In that future, when we experience distress, we have many different ways to understand it, and that's shaped and grounded in our different cultures and in our different life experiences. Our first responses to distress aren't actually the assumption that we need services. They're grounded in community connection. Because we're no longer living paycheck to paycheck, we don't see time spent with our community or with loved ones as unpaid labour. And that's because we don't need to commodify all parts of our lives to survive our lives, which I might add we have to do in the current systems that we all live in at the moment. We see healing circles, we see yarning circles, we see art, sport, social prescribing, although I hope we name it something different, as expressions of what make us human and as dignified ways for us to meet our own human rights. When we do engage with services, they respond to our needs at the point of need, not at the point of risk or at the point of crisis. They see us in our fullness and they respond with humanity. And when life crises inevitably come, and they will, our worst days are met with our best services. Families are no longer placed in impossible situations created by atrophied and carceral systems. Human rights become a kind of enabling philosophy for a better shared future rather than a kind of adversarial account of competing needs. But who's caring for the carers? In this future, our system is rich with supports for families, meeting their needs and honouring their cultures. These are legitimate needs deserving of recognition in their own right. The only way to get there is together. The gravitational pull of the status quo will always seek to drag us back down. We need the collective momentum to break free. And so we have so much in common. We have everything to gain from that shared vision that's been outlined. To me, there's exciting work ahead in Queensland between families, carers, supporters and kin, and mental health consumers. I'm honoured to play a small role in that, and I look forward to working with you all on this shared journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Come and sit beside me. I feel like Simon's my younger and slightly better looking and more energetic brother, so I'm just going to go with that flavour for today.
You don't have the receding hairline, so that,
It's coming. It's coming. I'm game for showing my legs at some point, but maybe next year I'll give myself some time to get a tan first. Could you please give Simon a warm welcome? Simon's returned from coming back to Queensland to take on this role. Please give him a warm welcome to the carer community. Now, just for a bit of history, when the development of the consumer peak was going through, there was a question about why not a family and carer and consumer peak. And basically, there was a lot of feedback around that families and carers and consumers, they all want the same thing, but they sometimes want different ways of that happening. So it was important that everybody in their own right had a space to have their voice and share things. But Simon, We've talked before now and we've talked offline about how we work together. Are you able to share some of the things that Maleep Q are doing that we can lean in and support you with to make sure that consumers are getting the support from families and carers, and anything that we can do together to make sure we're allies where we should be?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I would say historically, and in some ways, when I came to Queensland, I noticed, certainly with Irene, that some of the tensions that you see in other state and territories between consumers and carers aren't as strong as they are here with the leadership of Irene. But that tension kind of emerges from impossible situations created by current mental health systems. And so, if we look at the crisis points that we currently see in the system, and we think that's all we can get, then we're going to see competing needs. If we get upstream and look at the systemic drivers of the situations we're in, then I think we have that common vision and those common solutions. And so things like that, we're doing work to try to advance a better account of human rights in the mental health system. There's probably a perception floating around the mental health system that there's not serious human rights issues. I think that's seriously wrong. And I think human rights really is something to the benefit of everyone. It creates a better workplace for people working in the system. It creates better outcomes for family supporters and carers. And ultimately creates a better experience for those of us in distress who need to use the system. So we're doing some work, to try to drive systemic change with the public advocate and other parts of government there. We'll also be trying to do some probably work over the next year, I imagine, to try to establish some kind of partnership space about how we work together. And how we have our memberships and our communities work together. And I know many people in the room here will be consumers and they'll identify as family carers and supporters as well.
Yeah, no, thanks, Simon. And I think that goes to like a lot of your members will identify as carers too, and vice versa. Is there anything that Arafmi can do to lean in and support Maleep Q? Because I think we've always very informally cared about each other and worked together, but we probably haven't taken that formal step to solidify that. Is there anything we can do, or any of the people in the room can do to lean in and support Maleep Q at your next stages?
Well, look, I think it always depends on what particular scenario you find yourself in. But one of the reflections I had when I came up for a meeting, a particular meeting that Irene was in, we were talking about human rights issues. And one of the things I really noticed when Irene was in that space was that you were very conscious of being really intentional to say, oh, okay, in this space, it's about how do we amplify, the needs of consumers, whilst acknowledging that there was other spaces that you had to advance or play a supportive role for the needs of consumers. while in other spaces know that there were all these other opportunities to advance, the needs of families, carers, supporters and kin. And so I think that intentionality, and I hope that's intentionality that I'll bring and will bring to what space you're in, and being conscious of elevating those most disadvantaged in a scenario.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. And I think what we talked about is, I think whilst we all sometimes have different ways of doing things, we all want the same for the people we care for and for ourselves, which is a good life. Sometimes we don't always agree on how that happens and what the path is we take, but I think the more we talk to each other and work through that, we're better equipped to help everybody get to the same space. Now, Emma's given me the side eye there, and Simon is going from... I'm just checking, I've got enough time. We've got 2 more minutes, perfect. Simon has a couple of meetings today, and he's very generously squeezed this in. So Simon, I guess if...
It's very generous to invite me.
No, we want you here, and you'll be here at the table, and I think you should be at the table all of the time around things. We can't make changes without you, and vice versa. Is there any... and I don't want to put you on the spot, but any kind of policy issue at the moment? So you've talked about human rights, and I absolutely agree we need to push the change in making sure that legislation's upheld. Is there any policy issue that you want to take forward in the next year that we can help promote or support? That, yeah, anything there?
I think there's probably 2 that we'll be trying to explore, and we're in the early stages of exploring. I mean, one is, we have a real imbalance of funding in the current system that's really focused on crisis-based services, and so governments are always only going to... We'll always advocate for more funding for mental health systems, of course, but governments will always have some kind of upper limit, and so our advocacy also needs to say, well, only 4% of the funding is going to NGO mental health services, and so much of it is parked up the crisis end of the system, which we know isn't responsive to culture, isn't as responsive to your individual needs, is often, is significantly more coercive, is where restrictive practices happen. And so one of the things that we'll be looking to do, and I know we've had early discussions about it, is thinking about what's the case for change to rebalance that funding to more to that community focus, which will mean that we don't all end up in those impossible situations where the choices between it could be life or death or coercive services. We shouldn't end up in that scenario. I mean, maybe the other one is we're really keen to. I'm always pretty keen to talk about human rights issues in the mental health system, but there's also human rights opportunities, or opportunities for what a better system looks like. So what we can articulate what was wrong with the current system, but as that very brief talk spoke to, well, what's the vision for what a better mental health system looks like, and how do we all see ourselves in that, and how do we make sure family carers, supporters and kin have their needs met there, and also, let's be real, this is a mental health system that was never designed by the people who use it, and so how do we centre consumer perspectives in that? So.
Cool, thanks Simon. That's a great topic to end on. So just a shout out to Maleep Q, and just a reminder for the people you're caring for, if they aren't already members of Maleep Q, that's also their avenue to help get their voice heard. Now, it's not individual advocacy, it's systemic advocacy, so the whole government and policy changing, similar to what we do. But if the person you care for doesn't feel like their voice is getting heard, Maleep Q are the avenue to help change those things.
I should have remembered the membership drive, but
No,
I'm glad Irene did. Someone even gave me, a board member reminded me earlier to do that. So we've got our wonderful team, Eloise is out there, and so please, if you identify someone with lived experience who wants representation around your lived experience of mental health issues, please sign up as a member. We'd be privileged to represent you.
Cool, thanks Simon. Could everybody please give Simon a warm thank you? All the best for your next stages. We'll see you up in Cairns in a couple of weeks, Simon. All right.
Yes.
Awesome. Thanks, Simon. Thanks, Irene. Awesome. Keeping to time. Now to another very important person in the world that we all inhabit as mental health carers, and that is the psychiatrist. Yours, or the person that you care for, their psychiatrist. Their treatment and advice can have a big impact on your life. So, how do you get the most out of them? and for the person you care for and for yourself. Dr. Christian Heim is a clinical psychiatrist, a senior lecturer at the University of Queensland School of Medicine, has worked as a psychiatrist for more than 25 years, and is an internationally renowned speaker on preventative mental health and resilient relationships, and is our keynote speaker today. And there's opportunity as well to ask questions of Christian, and we have, again, some paper up the back there on the wall that you could put the questions there. Again, just general, not specific to your circumstances, and we'll try to get some of them to you through this presentation. And I think you also have booklets to give everybody, but I'll let you come up and explain that, and we're very good with the wild applause today, so let's bring it home for Dr. Christian Heim.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. And thank you, Emma, for that introduction. And look, before I start, I just wanted to thank three very important people who've made this all possible. Thank you to Irene, to Tina, and to Alex for organising all of today and for inviting me to be part of it. Could we give a round of applause to them? Thank you very much. So, yeah, you heard that I'm a psychiatrist, a clinical psychiatrist. I'm going to tell you a bit more of what I'm about. Just a few things first. I have to start off with a little apology. Your eyes will be working a lot. I move around a lot. I'm sorry about that. So you'll kind of have to track me a little bit, because that's just what I do. I'm a bit doggish that way, you know, sort of just a bit loose around the edges. But at the moment, I'm working as the acting deputy clinical director of mental health services down on the Gold Coast, in a role that was vacated by who's now the chief psychiatrist of Queensland. And yeah, I've got a special heart for carers. In fact, Caroline and I, you'll get to meet later, are putting together a couple of books. Help My Spouse Has a Mental Illness, and Help My Adult Child Has a Mental Illness, because there's a paucity of information out there for people like you to take care of the carers. And later on you'll hear about how you can be a part of that. But today my brief is to give you an overview of what's happening, and then drill down into the specifics of how to make the most of your psychiatrist. I suppose the biggest change that you will find for right up until now, we've been talking about policies, procedures, funding, and the big picture. Now I'm going to take you into the individual. I'm going to take you into my office. I'm going to say some of the things that you as an individual carer can do to improve your life and the life of the person that you're caring for, because all the things that we talk about are going to take time. It all goes slowly. But you could actually be starting to make the most of your psychiatrist in a matter of weeks. And it can make a big difference to your life personally and the life of the person that we take care of. Okay, so one thing I am going to keep from this morning is that there's a little dialogue going on about dogs and cats, okay? And I'm going to keep that. In fact, Tina and Michelle, who are working very hard over there, let's give them a little bit of a clap. Okay. Caroline does that. She'll sort of tell me what to do, and I will do that, right? Okay. So they sort of said, are there any important words that we need to know for this presentation? And I said, yes, dog and cat. Because since COVID, dogs and cats have become really important to all of us humans, but particularly to people who have mental illness. They really are an important part of the team. And so I'm going to keep some of that. I'm also going to start off with a story that involves a dog, and it's a sad story, but it has a happy ending. So as sad as we get, because the work that we do is serious. So this is a story of something that happened a couple of decades ago in a different state, and I've changed the names and the circumstances, but I'll call him Jason. Jason was 22. Jason was found in his car out in the middle of the field, and he had a hose from the exhaust pipe into the car with the car running. Inside the car was Jason and his dog. And that was really serious to us because it meant that Jason did not expect to be around, and his one best friend, his dog, he thought, you know what, nobody else can take care of this dog, so the dog has to go with me. Fortunately, the police found him on time, and he ended up an inpatient in our ward. We talked to Jason, we found out he comes from interstate, and one of the key things in his presentation was his relationship with his mum that had disintegrated over years. Call up mum. Mum comes down to live with him. And he says to her, Mum, I'm sorry. I didn't want to be a burden on you. And she says, Jason, you're not a burden on me. You're my son. And because of that relationship, we were able to get Jason out of hospital to live with his mum, Sue, after only 2 weeks. That's a great outcome. Sue stayed with Jason for months. But guess what happens? After months, Sue's in my office and she goes, you know what? I came here because I love Jason, but I've got a life that I've got to get on with, all right? And I said that he wasn't a burden, but okay, so we moved from that. Because Sue was driven by guilt, so what we did was we moved her from guilt to duty. And she says, what's the difference between guilt and duty? Well, guilt is something that somebody puts on you to do. Duty is something that you can choose. She goes, okay, I'm on board with that. And through the duty, we then got to another stage, which was called meaning. She found meaning in what she was doing, and she actually experienced some joy in what she was doing. And from going from guilt to duty to meaning, she found some freedom, okay? And she was able to go back interstate. She and Jason would talk twice a week on the phone. That's a healthy relationship. And they would see each other about every 3 months. That is a really good outcome. But I've also had some pretty bad outcomes as well. What happened to the dog? Okay, so the hospital runs a place for pets, okay? So the dog was taken care of, and Dog and Jason and Sue were the family for a while. And the dog was an important part of that family and continued to be part of that family, okay? They didn't have a cat. All right, but you can see what happens. You start as a carer working out of love, and you end up in a situation of guilt, and you feel trapped. And in my office, I've heard things like, okay, do I tolerate the weed and the meth, or do I throw him out of the house? Why is it that he can't organize himself to get a job, but he can organize meth almost every day with his dealer? Or in my office, a wife finally comes to be part of the management plan, and we sit down and we're great to have her there, and the first thing she says is, I'm leaving you. I love you, but this is too much. It's ruining my life. I've found somebody else. Bye-bye. And she set that up because she knew that I would take care of him and admit him into hospital. It was awful. It was really hard. But we all understand it, okay? Because we ask those questions. Is there an out for me? And we don't blame anybody who takes it. And in my office, I've also had those terrible talks with 2 caring parents that have had the worst outcome, the outcome that we all fear. They're left asking, what could we have done better? And I'm left asking, what could I have done better? So that's the background of what we're looking at this afternoon. And I'll be going to give you an overall framework of what being a carer looks like and how that relates to your psychiatrist. And then I'll drill down to details into actual questions that you could ask your psychiatrist to help you. Thank you for the questions that are already up on the board there. There's a question about antidepressants. There are a few questions about access, and I'll be talking about access. Access is really important. How do you actually get to see a psychiatrist? And the other question is about, well, is the whole world going crazy? Are these percentages in mental health problems going up and up and up? Is that real? What's actually going on? That's actually really relevant. I don't know if we'll get there, but that's actually a really important question. So my aim is to stop you feeling trapped. Irene already told me that I might get some pointy questions from you. And I welcome pointy questions. So if you want to get up and just write a pointy question up there while I'm speaking, please feel free to do it. Okay, so the overall framework is I'm going to look at the big picture. I'm going to look at some practicalities, and then I'm going to look at how you can actually work in partnership with your loved one. I'm going to assume that the carer is a mother and the loved one is a male adult child. Okay, you'll just have to change that, because you see, early on when I worked with DVA patients, they always complained that not enough was being done for the spouse. We're on about 20, 25 years since then, and still not enough is being done. And aside from spouse, there are parents, there are children, there is a whole lot of people that need care themselves, because having one person sick is bad enough. Having two people is just a disaster. So we have to take care of the carers. All right, so let's look at the overarching framework. We're going to start off with drive. If you want to get anywhere, you have to drive there. Okay, which means that somebody's going to have to drive the management. Ideally, the driver is the person with the illness, but we all know that that doesn't actually happen. And so who actually ends up driving? The primary carer. And it's often a mother or a spouse, and sometimes you think that the psychiatrist and the health system are afraid of you. Wait till you see this mum. Wait till you see this person. Because if you're a driver, you're not a liked person. So if people don't like you driving, you tell them you drive for a while. Because you know what can happen. If you drive too fast, nobody likes it. If you drive too slowly, nobody likes it. But somebody has to drive. Thank you for driving. This is what driving looks like. The old way of dealing with doctors on a whole was, yes, doctor, okay, and you're out of there. And you forget 80% of what you get told. You just remember the drugs that you need to take, and then, oh, well, we'll come back next time. That's the old way of doing things. The new way of doing things is being active. Having your notebook, I'll talk about a notebook in a sec. Having questions, writing down information, writing down instructions, and asking pointed questions, because you want the person that you work with to be well. Now, see, the thing is, here in Queensland, we like being laid back. We like being easygoing. And asking pointy questions, you know, and just driving things, it's not the Queensland way, all right? But it's the way to get things done sometimes. And what I've noticed in Queensland is you can be friendly and indirect, but you can still drive and get what you want, okay? You can work that out. I've seen it. I've seen it in the carers that I have worked with. The next thing is other people. You need a support network of other people. And I don't mean just for the person that you're caring for, but for you. You need a friend that you play tennis with, or bowls, or have a cup of tea with, or somebody who's just going to take care of you. Then you look at the whole network of people that are there for your person, okay? Now, there's a professional network, psychiatrists, case managers, the rest of it. There are people who are friends. There are people who are relatives, okay? And it's important to know everybody's role, because mistakes are made when the roles get changed, okay? When a cousin becomes a therapist, right? When the case manager becomes a really good friend, right? When the psychiatrist becomes a mother. These are the things that cause real problems. Right? So whoever the support network is, make sure you know what their role is. If your role is sister, then your role is sister. You be a good sister to whoever you need to be a good sister for. The third thing in the overall management thing is goals. Every time I talk about goals, I say, Christian, You haven't written down your goals again, you've forgotten. Without goals, we won't get anywhere. If you're driving, you have to drive somewhere. The goal is to know where you're going to be. Mr. Psychiatrist, Mrs. Psychiatrist, what is this illness going to look like in 1 year's time? Is it realistic to do this? Can we plan on this? If we do not have the goals, then we're not going to get there because we may not even be heading in the right direction. Okay? And the thing about goals is I like having daily goals and yearly goals. You might find that, could we go back on these? Sort of, who shared those? Okay, yeah, just keep it there. What I do is I talk a whole lot first, and then I use the slides because you end up outside my office and looking at slides. So at the moment, we're still sort of in our office having a conversation here. Okay, what was that? Boundaries. Okay. Boundaries. Okay, so with goals, you've got to have them in place and they've got to be specific, measurable, and you've got to agree on them so you can actually get there, right? So that's the overall framework that we're looking at. The next thing I'm going to look at is the practicals. What do you need for the practicals? For the practicals, first thing is you've got to know the appointments. You've got to know where they are, with whom they are, how long they are, why they are there, and you've got to keep them. Because every appointment that you miss, that is your loved one misses, you delay wellness for about 6 weeks. In the public system, that's about how long it is between appointments. And the question is, how long do you want to spend before you get well, okay? So appointments are really, really important. And to write down the appointments on your calendar and to make sure that you're prepared for them all, you've got your notebook. That's the second part of the practicals. You have to have a notebook. A notebook is going to be your Bible of wellness. It's going to have all your appointments written in. It's going to have all your contacts written in. It's going to have all your goals written down. It's going to have all your questions written down, ready to ask a psychiatrist. It's going to have all the instructions written down as to what you do. And it's going to have a whole lot more. Now, you may want to use a computer file. That's fine. I actually use both because one's just a lot more fun. The other one can get unwieldy. But whatever works for you, make sure you have a notebook where everything is in, because you'll end up saying things like this. Jason, 6 months ago we said that you'd cut down smoking down to only 10 cigarettes a day. How are we going on that? Right? So it becomes a way of monitoring. And yeah, you don't make yourself popular by having a notebook, all right? But you know that you're doing the right thing, okay? And that is actually important. You show your love by doing what needs to be done, not by being agreeable, okay? In fact, one phrase that you might want to use is, I love you too much to let you get away with that, okay? That will get you out of a whole lot of conflict. Why do you keep nagging me about this? Why do you keep doing this? Because I love you too much to let you get away with that. What is somebody going to say to that? Because it's just true. All right, so we're still in the practicals. We've got appointments. We've got notebook. The other thing is drugs. You've got to know the drugs. You've got to know the good drugs. You've got to know the doses, the side effects, when to take them, how to take them, and make sure that it's being taken. And you got to know the bad drugs. This is what we want you to take less of. We want you to do this instead of take that. And you're just there gently driving that forward, because a lot of things can be taken care of when drugs are taken off the table. And I mean recreational drugs. If we did without methamphetamines, this whole society would be a whole lot better, okay? We don't like pushing. I understand that, but it's still part of the problem. The other thing is diagnosis and prognosis. And I'm going to get back to that because that's something specifically for your psychiatrist. And in all of these things, when you're talking about drugs and medication and what drugs to avoid and diagnosis, they're going to end up as questions for the psychiatrist. Now I'm going to get to the hardest part of it all, okay? The hardest part of all is working in partnership with the person that you love. Because the truth is, you end up in a lot of conflict with the person that you love, right? And the overall thing is, we wish you didn't have a mental illness. We wish there was a magic wand to just take this all away. But that is not the reality. And I'm really sorry about that. Because as a psychiatrist, I know that the science behind what we do is decades behind some other parts in medicine. But we're doing our best. That's why I'm in research. That's why I've got a particular heart for preventative mental health and keeping people in the community as much as possible. But the research is ongoing, okay? Preventative mental health is doing the things that you need before you get a mental illness, all right? And so a lot of that has to do with the breakdown of relationships in society, our socialization, our communities just not being there. We all have less friends than we had 20 years ago. That's a pity. All right, so that's all the practicals. We're talking about the partnership. And the first thing is care. Care for yourself. You really need to take care of yourself first. When you are on a flight, they will tell you that you need to put your own mask on first before you put your mask on somebody else. Why is that? Because if something bad happens, we want at least one person to be well, and we want that person to be well enough to be able to help the other person. If you're both gasping for breath, that means that we're two people down instead of one, which could have been taken care of. So take care of yourself first. What does that look like? That means making sure that you take one of the massages down the back there, okay? Or that you go off to play your tennis or have a cup of tea or whatever you do, and this is where boundaries come in. No, I need to take care of myself. It also means asking for appreciation when you don't get it, because most of you, I hate to say, are taken for granted for the good work that you do. And you know that, and I'm sorry about that. But it is still the right thing to do the right thing. So you've got to take care of yourself first, and that's why we're looking to put out a couple of books on how to do that, because it isn't easy. The second thing is accountability. For who? For the person with mental illness. Ideally, they're driving their wellness, they're in control, they're managing, but you're probably not there yet. You're doing all of that. But they need to be accountable. First to you and then to themselves. If they're not accountable, if they're not moving in the right direction with you, then you get really frustrated. Then you really feel that you're the one that's driving all of this and they don't even care about themselves. So you end up in a situation where you care about their life more than they do. And that can be really heartbreaking. And that needs good conversations. You need to have difficult conversations with the person that you love with mental illness. You also need to have difficult conversations with a psychiatrist who deals with people like this and can give you some tips in your particular situation. And that's really important. And finally, to become a partnership, you got to trust. And you got to trust together. You've got to become a trusting team together. And you know what? Trust goes out the window, because whenever they take a substance that they shouldn't, you don't trust them. When they tell you something, you go, I'm not sure if I can believe my own son in that. And then, if you've got their trust, you don't trust their mental illness. Oh, they said there'd be no relapses, but here comes another one. It's been triggered, and now we're going through it. And then, you don't trust the treating team. Does this psychiatrist really know what they're doing? Is this the best system that we have? Yeah, it is actually. It's flawed, I know that, but it's the best that we have at the moment. And the idea is, through all of these barriers, to build as much trust as you can, to have the difficult conversations, and whatever the argument ends up being, saying, all right, you know I'm on your side, and you know that I will do what I can so that we move forward. Okay? You have to end arguments with something like that. Okay? Because if you leave it in the air, then they lose the only person who's actually advocating for them. Okay, so what I've just done is gone through an overall framework, and all of that, by the way, is on a pamphlet that Caroline will give out, and you will get all the notes to this as well, so you don't have to write things down. But I'm now going to go into the slides so that you can recap this. See, I've fiendishly designed this so that you can kind of remember it, and the first thing is to have the emotional, yeah, that's what I need. Now I'm going to let you see what we've gone through. And coincidentally, you're going to realize that what I've done is I've spelt out cat and dog. Okay? So I'm going to go to the slides. Here's my little clicker. Okay, this is the overall drive that you need to get somewhere. All right? There's your dog for driving. There's your other people. And there's your goals. Now, the goalposts may move, but the goals have to be there. This is the dog of it. This is the overarching principle. You have to drive, somebody has to drive, other people have to be there, you have to know who they are, have them in place, and you've got to have your goals. All of those things you can talk to a psychiatrist about how you do that. We're going to get there when we get to the details. We go to and. This is the practicals. This is where you've got to know about your appointments. This is where you have to have your notebook or your computer file, however you do it. And you've got to know about the drugs and the diagnosis. And again, I'll talk about details when we get to talking about specific questions with the psychiatrist. These are the practicals, right? This is all on the handout. So if you're writing along, that's great. That's good because you probably are using another brain pathway and you'll get it in there. But know that it's going to be there for you. The cat. The cat is a difficult one. Let's face it, cats are more difficult than dogs, aren't they? Okay, so I was once told that the reasons that dogs exist is to show us what real love is about. And the reason that cats exist is so that we know the difference. I don't know how true that is. All right, keeping relationship, being in partnership with a person that you love who has mental illness means taking care of yourself. Otherwise, you're going to get resentful and you're going to wonder where your life has gone because you're managing all the decisions, you're walking on eggshells, you've got your life on hold, you're driven by guilt, and remember we want to move that from guilt to duty to meaning to freedom. That's the journey that you want to take, from guilt to duty to meaning to freedom. And the last thing about the cat is being a team. Having trust, having teamwork, and feeling that you're actually together in this. And often, the times that you feel most scared is when you don't feel that. Okay, so I would encourage you to do all that you can to keep relationship and make sure the cat is taken care of. All right, now we're going to get to the psychiatrist. And the first thing that I want to talk about is accessing a psychiatrist. And I'm going to tell you the easiest way to access a psychiatrist. You can access a psychiatrist as soon as your loved one with mental illness has an appointment. You speak to them and you say, "Can I come along?" Because when you're there in the room with your loved one, all the billing problems go away in the private sector. All the consent problems go away in the public sector because your loved one has you there. Now, that already takes a difficult conversation in itself because as a psychiatrist, I know that often a patient doesn't want their carers there, okay? But they won't tell their carers that, okay? Because they want to look as though they're in partnership, but actually they want to keep a whole lot of stuff to yourself because, let's face it, you're going to get information that you can use so that they have to do more work and drive their wellness. That's what you want, but they're not always sure that they can do it. But that's the truth of the situation. It's communication problems that often drive unwellness on top of the mental illness itself. So have those difficult conversations. So access to your psychiatrist. If I, in private world, have a patient turn up and they say, "Do you mind if my mum comes in?" I say, "Yeah, that'll be right." Then I'll say to the mum, "Just give us a minute and then I'll take them in and I'll say, is there anything that you don't want me to say in front of your mum? And sometimes they'll tell me. Sometimes they'll say, no, it's all right. And then I'll say, is there anything you particularly want me to tell you in front of your mum? And they'll go, oh, that's good. Could you tell her this, please? And I'll say, yeah, so I'm advocating for the patient, but I've gotten over the consent issues. Mum, could you come in, please? And then we've got a good 45 minutes to work out a plan to make sure that that team is together. Because if that team is together, it's more important than me being together with the patient, okay? Carer and patient is a more important team than patient and doctor. So this all depends on the relationship that you can get with the person that you're taking care of that has mental illness. In the public system, where I know you get about half an hour, maybe 3/4 of an hour every 6 weeks if you're stable, same thing. Can I come with you? The case manager go, oh, it's a bit unusual. I want to, okay? And then the case manager will turn to the patient and say, do you want your mum to come? Yeah, I do. No barrier. Walk in. You do not have to make a separate appointment to see a psychiatrist. If you can keep a together relationship with the person that you're caring for, you can both walk in. There'll be times when the psychiatrist sort of says, look, I'll do this one alone. Okay, that's fine. It depends on what the goals are at the time. But that's the easiest way. Please make use of it, right? Because the number of times that a psychiatrist is actually juggling the relationship dynamics that get really complex between somebody with mental illness and the people who love them, who want the best for them, okay? So that's the easiest way. Aside from that, yes, there are times that you're going to be able to see a psychiatrist alone. You can always give a psychiatrist information, that's legal. A psychiatrist cannot always give you information, okay? Consent is really important in today's world, dealing with human rights. All right. I'll let you know that I've been a long time in the private system. I was 15 years at Toowong Private Hospital. And before that, I started a few years in the public system, and I'm back in the public system as a clinical director. So I straddle both. They have their advantages and disadvantages. In the private system, you tend to get more tailored approach, okay? And there's a lot more flexibility, and you've got the continuity of care. The person that I took care of for the longest was just under 15 years. You develop a lot of trust that way, and it's with one person. In the public system, which is absolutely fantastic, I've got to tell you, there is no public system like it in the world, you don't get that continuity of care. People move around, okay? You'll get different case managers. You'll get a different registrar every 6 months. You've got to get used to new faces all the time. That's actually why information sharing becomes such an issue in the public system, and it should be. It's actually really good. Now, the thing is that one will suit you more than another. One has got costs involved more than the other. Some people are actually, I'm just a public system person. It just suits me and my ethos, okay? Other people, no, private's good for me. Unfortunately, with the mental health crisis, which we do have, any psychiatrist is at a premium. It is very difficult to get in to see any psychiatrist because there's a worldwide shortage of psychiatrists and they're all getting burnt out. All psychiatrists are trained doctors. They're all competent. You will have questions like, do I have a good psychiatrist? And the question really is, are you getting on well with a psychiatrist? Just to let you know, they've done the studies and they find that the doctors with the highest IQ go into psychiatry because it's actually more complex. It looks easy from the outside, but there are so many variables that can't be controlled. Whereas if you're doing cardiology, it's a heart. And as long as you know all there is about a heart and all there is about the medications for a heart and all the evidence, you know exactly what to do. When I was doing cardiology, every heart kind of looked the same to me. I have never met two people with schizophrenia who are the same. I have never met two people with anxiety or depression that are the same. I've got to be on my toes all the time. And you know what? I love it. One of the most beautiful things that a human brain can do is be engaged with another human brain. Unpredictable, but so rewarding when you build that trust. Okay, so what tends to make a good psychiatrist, and these are things that your psychiatrists are already good about. They communicate well. They're able to contain emotions, tolerate uncertainty, right? That's a big thing. Cardiologists do not tolerate uncertainty. You've got to know exactly where that blockage is and what percentage that blockage is. Psychiatrists are among the most caring group of doctors that I have come across. It was one of the key things that drove me into psychiatry rather than something else. They're actually beautiful people. They're overworked, right, and overwhelmed. They also are able to understand, accept a wider range of normal, and you'll find that some psychiatrists are better at the big picture, others are better at details. Okay. Making the most, first question is it the psychiatrist that I should be talking to, right? Sometimes you can get better information out of a case manager. You need to have these conversations, but when you know that it's a psychiatrist that you need to talk to, these are the things that we're going to look at, okay? What's the role of a psychiatrist? What attitudes can I have that will help me? There are things that you can do before the appointment, during the appointment, and after the appointment, so let's go through them. Sorry, I went backwards instead. The psychiatrist is an expert, and the amazing thing in both the private and the public system is each expert is backed up by a whole lot of other experts, and psychiatrists keep in contact overseas on forums to make sure that they're giving you the best care. I'm saying that so you can have confidence, so that if there's an answer that needs to be had, your psychiatrist can actually find it, and they actually try to do all of that. I said earlier the importance of diagnosis and prognosis. Diagnosis means we thoroughly understand what's going on. That situation doesn't actually exist in psychiatry. We don't always know exactly what's going on. But it's our best bet. And when you've got a diagnosis, that's what's going to drive management, okay? So it's a good idea for you to know the diagnosis, not schizophrenia, but chronic paranoid schizophrenia, or disorganized schizophrenia, or not depression, but an agitated depression with melancholic features, okay? Whatever the terminology is, it's good to know, because that's what actually is going to drive management. And I know it sounds strange, but you want to know as many diagnoses as you can, because each of those is going to trigger something in management. Prognosis is actually more important, because they're going to drive your goals. Prognosis means, what's going to happen with this illness? What can we expect in 1 year? What can we expect in 5 years? Hard to talk about, because sometimes the outlook isn't good. But when you know, you're empowered. You're able to do something. You're able to prepare. You're able to drive your goals so that you're driving in the right direction. Psychiatrists, of course, takes care of medication, treatment planning, and coordination. A lot of psychiatrists do psychotherapy. I did a lot of psychotherapy. They are also there to educate not only the patient and the person that is with them, but the whole team, okay? Early warning signs and daily routines is an important thing that a psychiatrist should know about. And psychiatrists more and more are advocates, which is why you get frustrated about how information gets disseminated. These are some helpful attitudes. We are all trying to do our best, including a psychiatrist, including you. Okay, there's no magic wand. The real problem is always under-resourcing. Okay, New South Wales is in a crisis at the moment because of under-resourcing, and all of Australia is heading in that direction. If you can, because we understand that you will get frustrated, the frustration, the real frustration is that this mental illness exists in the first place, but try to be part of a team, even with a psychiatrist that you may not like, okay? They are still an expert that are on your side. Let them know your concerns and the information, okay? So we like to be positive, but it's actually, studies have shown it's better to be realistic. It's better to know what's actually going to happen and say, okay, that's a hard one. I really don't like that. And I have had conversations in my office telling parents that the chances of their child being alive in a year's time is not good. I'm sorry, that's a really hard conversation to have, okay? Because you pray that you're wrong, and if you are wrong, then it's sort of like, you were wrong. And I said, yes, thank goodness I was. I'm really happy to be wrong in that situation. But I've just got to prepare you that this is what the information tells me, okay? Hope is always important, and it needs to be driven. Before the appointment, you've got to talk to your loved one with mental illness. Is it okay if I come? Can I ask this? Can I ask that? Are there any areas that you don't want me to go into? Okay? And you have all this in your notebook, right? You've also got things in your notebook written about the person as well, and you've got them there for your psychiatrist. And so, as a psychiatrist, I know if I say, so how are things going? People tend to go, yeah, they're okay. And you got to probe before you found out that there was a major conflict. She picked up a knife, okay, and she was threatening to harm herself again, and I'm cowering in the bedroom because then she started threatening me, right? Nobody wants to share that information because you feel like that you're failing yourself. You're not. It's an illness. It's a really difficult situation. But if you're able to share the reality, then something can be done about it, okay? And as much as you can, talk about all that you can with a person that has mental illness. In the information, in the appointment, there are 3 things that you need to do. Give information, take information, and share decisions. Give information, you've got your notebook. Here's what I've seen, their mood has been better here. They seem to have this side effect. They're going out and doing this, they're sleeping a whole lot more. Is that normal, okay? And you've got all these observations that you're able to share. You're talking about their eating, their sleeping, their socializing, their activities, and you're putting the psychiatrist in the picture, okay? You're also doing this for yourself. Here's how I'm feeling, all right? I'm really down this week. Psychiatrists are going to go ape if you go down. They don't want you to go down. They will do all that they can to take care of you because we rely on you. Without you, we wouldn't be able to drive towards wellness, okay? Psychiatrists don't say that often, but we know that that's the truth. So if you need help, make sure you get it. In the private system, I've had mums make appointments to see me. They don't have mental illness, but their son does, okay? And that's a good use of my time, to support somebody without being part of a network of people who talk all over the place. She's just got me to talk about, what do we do about this, what do we do about this? That's a good use of a private psychiatrist's time. And of course, everything around medication. As well as giving information, you take information. You take information by asking questions. So what's the diagnosis? How severe is it? What caused all of this? What can we change? What's the prognosis? What can I expect? What's going to happen in 1 year? Because all of that is going to drive treatment. And then I've got a few other questions written there, and they'll be written in a resource page or the booklet for you to go through, okay? Here's a big one. How should I respond when they're not taking their medications without getting into conflict? Because you end up in a lot of conflict when they don't do what they're supposed to do, okay? Put it on the psychiatrist. What would you do in my situation? How would I best handle this situation? And the psychiatrist, who knows your loved one well, is in a good situation to actually help you with that one. But to do that, you have to admit that you're actually in conflict to begin with, all right? It's a difficult role. And how can I take care of myself? Yes, you can ask a psychiatrist that. After giving information and taking information, you share decision-making, all right? Medications. What can we expect from this medication? How long do I have to take it? What's the dose? What are the side effects? Then you can talk about other stuff. What's a good day look like for my loved one, okay? What do we do in a crisis? Who else should we see? That's sharing information. Medications without question are always good. This is a dumb question to start off with, but it's actually a really good one to ask. Are the current medications the best ones for now? I mean, what a dumb question. Of course, a psychiatrist is going to say, yes, they are the best that I have got at the moment. But you know what? It feels so good when you hear it, right? So even though it's a dumb question, it's a really important answer. Oh, good. These are actually the best. at the moment. And then you can tell your friends, oh, my psychiatrist said these are the best medications at the moment. And people will say, oh, haven't you tried this one and that one? I say, well, look, I trust my psychiatrist. They say they're the best at the moment, okay? And there's some other good questions there about medications. The other questions, hello, we're not working here, is what are your goals for the next 3 to 6 months? Okay, you've got to make sure you're on the same page with goals. How do I support him? And whenever you have your loved one in the same room and somebody asks you something that puts you in a difficult situation, the answer is always going to be, look, well, I want what's best for him. It's always going to be true, and it is true. And a psychiatrist knows that sometimes you can't say things in front of the loved one with mental illness, okay, because you've got to preserve a relationship, right? And it's important that you do. You have to preserve a relationship. But make sure you have difficult conversations when you can, okay? And this is another good question, the last one. What would you do in my position? Oh my gosh, okay, yes, I'm a father. I could imagine being in that position. Oh, really difficult, okay? I'd do this, because you're making a connection as a human being. And that's actually really important. You want to make that connection, okay? Getting people off the Mental Health Act, one thing that I'm doing as a clinical director is trying to encourage the whole of my team to get people off the Mental Health Act as soon as possible, all right? And that's not as straightforward as you think that it would be, okay? After the appointment, you've got to talk with your loved one with mental illness. Here's what we talked about. And you be as open as you actually can. That's how you become a team. You share as much information. Oh, he said something really difficult. Oh no, what did he say? And then you talk about it. And whatever the conversation, but you know I'm on your side. I want you to get better, okay? And then you got to put a plan into action, and you come back to your goals, because your goals are hopeful. Because basically you want to play light at the end of the tunnel. This is really bad at the moment, but I can see us in a year. We're going to take that trip to Fiji we've always been talking about. Would you like that? Dad, that's unrealistic. Is it? I spoke to your psychiatrist about it. He said if you do this and that, we could actually do it. Really? And the little bit of hope in that really can make all the difference. You can go on. Okay, and you paint pictures of the future. And you do that after seeing your psychiatrist. Now, I know that a lot of you are working with loved ones with mental illness where the prognosis is not that good. A trip to Fiji, Christian, you've got to be joking, all right? I can't get him out of the bedroom, right? Okay? Some situations are very, very difficult. Talk to your psychiatrist about what's realistic for them. Hello, come on. Okay. Finally, take care of yourself. Right? Have the people around you. If you're not getting appreciation, there's nothing wrong with asking for it, okay? Thank you, Mum. Okay? I could use a bit of appreciation around here. Oh, you set the table for me. Thank you very much. That's actually really good. You have to have resources around you because you feel that you're in a stuck situation. Even in a stuck situation, you've got to find meaning and purpose. One of the most brilliant studies on resilience was done in a concentration camp. It's a book by Viktor Frankl. And he said, you know what? This is a pretty bad situation. But I'm going to use it as a study to find out what actually helps people get through really difficult situations. And the book was published in 1946. And his findings are as true today as they ever were. He said the number one thing that gets people through difficult situations is love. Okay? The love of a mother, the love of a spouse, the love of a child. Okay? We are human beings. We react to love. We can't do without it. And he found in a place where people were committing suicide every day that the people who had somebody to be there for, I want to get through this so I can get together with such and such again, there was much more of a chance that they would actually make it. The number two thing that he found, purpose. I hate what I'm going through, but I'm gonna do something useful out of this. And he was in that situation. He said, this is really awful, but what I want to do is write a book to show the world what will help to get through really bad situations. So that was his purpose. He was a scientist, he was a psychiatrist, and he said if the world could get this book, then people 50 years from now might talk about it in a convention in Brisbane. He didn't think that, right? But that's the consequences of his purpose. So that kept him going. And then he said, you know what? If people don't have the love and they don't have the purpose, if they can find some meaning in what they're going through. And he used the example of an orangutan that was being siphoned of blood every day. So somebody was causing this orangutan pain every day. The orangutan hated it. What the orangutan didn't know is that the blood was being used to do research to cure people of cancer. So that orangutan was helping cure thousands upon thousands of people. And there was meaning there that you don't know. And life is full of meaning that we don't know. There is so much about life that we don't know. We don't know, why am I going through this and not somebody else? Why does anybody have to go through all of this? Keep asking those questions, because you will get to a point of meaning that will help you. And rather than being bitter, aim to become a team. It feels good. Even in tragedy, right? When I sat down with those parents about their loss, we found meaning. We found something not to smile about, but something to say, yeah, that's life. She was here. She was part of it. Okay, so you've just come here. What do I do from here? All right? First thing you need to do is talk to the person who has a mental illness and say, okay, I just heard this talk. This is what I want to do. Big thing is we got to trust each other. And we may not be doing a good job of that, but we got to do it. Then you got to get some goals together. Then see if you can come along to see a psychiatrist. See if you can do that and build trust with the psychiatrist. Be a team as much as you can. And the last thing I just want to say is thank you for all the unrewarded work that you do, because you guys do a heap, right? We hope to, in a year from now actually, to have a couple of books to help people like you. And you can be a part of that if you want. Your aim is to take a back seat when you can, all right? Because it's a lot of work to drive. And your input is valued way beyond the recognition that you get. Thank you so much for listening this afternoon.
Thanks so much, Christian. Now we have, I think Christian has some pamphlets as well to give around. I saw so many of you taking notes there, so that will be helpful as well. And there are questions here from the mental health carers that we've got here, Christian. So there's one in particular about what tips do you have when the person that you're caring for, the person who's seeing the psychiatrist, has little to no insight into what is actually happening with them. And so there's no consent. There's no real opportunity to get consent or to have those discussions about trust and goals. And so what are your tips if that isn't even possible?
Okay, that's actually a really good question. Thank you very much for whoever put that question. If somebody has no insight into what they're going through, then the first thing is they should be under the Mental Health Act, right? Which means that consent issues change. It means that you can talk to a treating team and you can get the information that you need about your particular loved one to help you cope through what is a very difficult situation. Otherwise, you show love as best you can. Whatever they can respond to, you do. It may be a hug, it may be just doing some routines, it could be just doing a little ritual, right? So if there's a particular card game that you've been playing for decades, you just play that card game. And it's a lot more therapeutic than you realise. Otherwise, we're getting into specifics, Emma, which somebody psychiatrist could actually help them with. Yeah.
It's a very difficult situation, I think, that a lot of mental health carers that interact with Arafmi experience. So coming to Arafmi is really a source of
Okay.
support and help and advice and information about that condition. I think there would be mental health carers here who would not even know the specifics of a diagnosis.
Yes, okay, so thank you for that,
Yeah.
Emma, because you're quite right. Getting together with other people that have been through the situation, because you feel like you're the only one going through this situation and nobody understands. Arafmi is the place to find out, where do I find people who've gone through this? Where are the people that can actually help me? Who can I talk to get me through this difficult time?
Yeah.
Thank you, Emma.
There is no magic wand, really,
No, there is
there?
no magic wand. That's the problem.
Now, a couple of other questions here, which I think you saw earlier as well. Obviously, we know there are long waits. There are queues to access health professionals. And as you spoke about, there is an international shortage of psychiatrists. So what comment would you have on that? Or perhaps as well, how does Arafmi advocate to alleviate that?
It's very hard to alleviate a worldwide shortage of psychiatrists. So I'll just let you know what happens in the health sector. We're actually poaching psychiatrists from the UK, from India, from the Caribbean. And I've got mixed emotions about that, because yes, it's helping us, but it means that somebody else is missing out. Okay, so as a global community, we've got to come together about that. But the way that psychiatry is changing and is moving to change is to take the focus off psychiatrists onto a broader team. So we've got people who are skilled enough to cope with things with oversight by a psychiatrist, and more of that is happening. And Arafmi is part of that, because if you have a group of people that are experiencing the same thing, then you're actually able to help each other out. And we're also in a situation where a lot of people don't want to make use of psychiatry and psychiatrists because they lose their autonomy. And a lot of people are sort of saying, you know what, I don't even want to go there, all right? And that's a really difficult situation, because what I would say is, when you need help, when it's dangerous, you will just have to go there, all right? But all in all, a lot of pressure is falling onto carers and the whole community to change the way we do things in society, because these horrific rises in mental health diagnoses is not due to genetics. Our genetics haven't changed for 60,000 years. It's the way we're living in society. And
Well,
it's
that's
not a
another
normal
question here.
society.
Yeah, the question, could you comment on the percentage of mental health rates over time? It's not staying the same, is it? Where there's much more diagnosis now. And do you put some of that down to greater awareness?
Yes, so definitely there's a lot of greater awareness. A lot is also down to stigma, which is coming down. Okay, so when you have sports stars and politicians say, yeah, I've been depressed too, or I've got bipolar, makes it easy for somebody to come to the hospital. So there is something about that. But during the 1990s, there are countries that increased antidepressant use 6-fold. And in those same years, rates of depression have tripled. Okay, so there's something wrong with the numbers, all right? Okay, and yes, we're changing the definition of depression, but one really hard piece of evidence is that suicide rates are rising in the USA and Australia. They've gone up by about 35% in the last 20 years. That's outrageous.
And it's the way we're living.
It's the way we're living. Okay, so there's a good book out there. It's called The Myth of Normal by Gabriel Mate. And the whole thesis of the book is there's nothing wrong with you. There's actually nothing wrong with your loved one who has an eating disorder, that has a depression, an addiction, or anxiety. There's something wrong with society. And there is. We actually all know it. But we don't know exactly where in society is, so we're having all these debates. Is social media bad or not? Well, a recent poll in the UK of children, they want it banned. 65% of children from the ages of 13 to 18 wish that we would ban social media for them. Okay, maybe we should listen.
Wish delivered. In my household anyway.
Okay, congratulations. Because that's a lot of work, as you know. Yeah.
One more question. Well, actually two, because
Yeah.
I've got one at the end.
Yeah.
But there's limited access to professionals in regional areas.
Yes.
So, I mean, when you're delivering these tips, and then you're talking about treatment teams,
Yes.
because psychiatrists are short
Yes.
on the ground.
Yes.
I guess all of those tips and questions are relevant to whichever health professional you're dealing with.
Yes.
But really, in regional and rural areas,
They're strapped.
so there's just nothing there in some places, is there?
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so I was working in Mackay as a clinical director for a couple of months. Okay, and there are two things I want to say about that. So firstly, the tips of just see if you can go to the next appointment with your loved one. All right, easiest way to see a psychiatrist. Getting a separate appointment. Sorry, that's a lot of hard work. And also, is it a psychiatrist that you need to see, or is it a case manager? But the second thing that I want to let you know is some good news that came out of Mackay. When I got there, they were having like 15 suicides a year in the First Nations community. And they said to me, now we're getting 0. I went, what? What did you do? He said, well, we didn't do anything. The health system did absolutely nothing. It was the First Nations community. They got together. They had a big talk. They said, you know what? We got to take care of each other. We got to make sure that we're in each other's face, that we have those campfire talks, that we look after each other. It's all about creating community again, and they seriously got down from 15 suicides a year to 0. And studies in Japan shows that's the way to do it. It is now law in Japan for every prefecture to have its own suicide prevention strategy. At the moment, we're doing it on a state basis, and we get world recognition for things like Are You OK Day, all right? Queensland's doing extremely well. But Japan has now gone to each municipal has to have its local thing, and they've embedded that in law. That's the way prevention of mental health issues is moving.
So stop living the way we are. Have lots of like campfire chats and get up in each other's face about it. Okay, good. I'm joking, of course.
Yeah,
but
no,
It
but
sounds
there's a
all
lot
right.
of-
I mean,
yeah.
maybe Arafmi could build a commune somewhere. What do you think? Christian Heim, thank you so much for your time today. And I did a bit of research looking into your what you were up to, basically, your bio on your website. Lovely things. So Christian loves going for walks on the beach with his spouse, Caroline, who's here, a couple of other things. But then you love eating celery. What's going on there, mate? It's okay. You're allowed. But honestly, celery?
Yeah, you look far and wide.
Is that
I
like a
know.
vice?
I know. No, in medical school, okay, so there'd be lectures and they weren't always interesting, you know, and the crunch of a celery gets above a lecturer's voice sometimes, you know.
Okay.
So there's a bit of a rebel in me.
Excellent. I love it. It's for the sound. Okay. Well, please join me in thanking Christian Heim.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Just before you break up, I do want to introduce you to Caroline, who's got a few things to share with us. Caroline? Oh, we've gone through questions. Yep.
Hello, everyone. This is a resources page for you. So if you want to use that QR code, there's more information. All of the slides are on that, so you can just slip through to that. That's also on the front of the handout that we gave you. So use your phones now. I'm going to switch slides if you want to go through that resources page right now. But there's podcasts, there's all sorts of things. There's so much material for you right there, all on mental health and some specifically on how to take care of your loved one, and also help some of the questions about what to say to your psychiatrist. But the main thing I wanted to talk about very, very briefly is, Christian alluded to this, we are writing a book called Help My Spouse/Partner Has a Mental Illness. And we want to, sorry? And adult child, yes. So what we are actually looking for is we're seeking people that we can interview for a 1-hour interview, either in person or over Zoom if you live regionally. And we will carry your stories into the book. You can be anonymous in the book. We will only be using first names or pseudonyms, so that's up to you. You can sign up for that, let's see, through that QR code, or I do have a clipboard here where you can just write down your email and I'll contact you. We'll meet together at a place that's convenient and a time that's convenient for you. I know how time poor you are, but we really do need volunteers so that we can share those stories, so that we can share your tips too to help others that are struggling just as much as you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Caroline, and thank you, Christian. Now, we're going to be finishing up today by 3:30, so you have a little bit of time, if you haven't had a little massage up the back there, to book in. I think there are some spots still available, and Renee, our photographer, is still here if you'd like some glamour photography out the front. And of course, we've got the lucky door prizes coming up after afternoon tea, and there are some cracker prizes there.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to just give a very brief recap on what we learned today. Then we're going to go into a 3-hour test to see that you all remember. It's just a PowerPoint as usual, so multiple choice. There's only 300 questions. You'll be out of here in no time. No, not really. So first of all, I want to thank a few organisations and people before we go to the prizes, and this is just to make sure we recognise. So the Queensland Mental Health Commission, who sponsor this event every year, so if we could thank them. Ivan's not here now, he spoke earlier on, but they've been a wonderful supporter to Arafmi through the years. We're also funded by Queensland Health, Mental Health, Alcohol and Other Drug Branch. And I think, was Craig Warland here? Did he pop along? Did not? Oh, we're going to have to shame him for that another day. He was going to put on his tux. But Queensland Health, Mental Health, Alcohol and Other Drug Branch fund Arafmi for the main amount of work that we do. So I want to say a big thank you to them. And thank you to Wellways and Carer Gateway, who are one of our key partners, and they've allowed us the capacity to expand statewide into mental health specific carer support. So thank you for the team at the back there. So those are our main key people. There are a bunch of sponsors there, and I think they're in our they're on our website and are they on our flyers at the back as well. And I should acknowledge the wonderful Living Loudly as well. The wonderful Lily, who's with our team, she also owns Living Loudly, and we've got some gifts as part of the prizes that we're going to talk through as well. But Lily's been selling products at the stall as well, and Arafmi have supported 30% discount for those too, just to make sure that you can get some self-care tips and techniques. But I just wanted to flag what we've talked about today. So we talked about all of the wonderful things that Arafmi are doing and expanding in. We promoted the Working with Carers, Family and Kin guide, so the guide for healthcare professionals. Does everybody have their copy? And you've got your spiel for when you see your next healthcare professional. Perfect. We had a wonderful panel discussion with Ivan, Assistant Minister Emma McBride, so she's the Federal Minister, the wonderful Dee and myself, and we were talking about systemic opportunities for influence and change across the country and in the state. We had a phenomenal, really tight group discussion about who our allies are, and I loved that a lot of tables talked about dogs and, you know, that human connection with animals being so important. But we also identified people who we didn't have in our ally circle that we were able to bring in. So thank you for bringing that to us. We talked to Simon about Mental Health Lived Experience Peak Queensland and welcomed him back to Queensland, and looking forward to working with Simon and the team on the work that we can collaborate and do together. And we had Dr. Christian Heim talking about getting the most out of your psychiatrist. Now, I saw a lot of people took the book that was handed out. Has everybody who wants a copy got a copy of it? Cool. And we did have the wonderful Bring a Plate company, and we'll have them back next year to make sure they get an opportunity to showcase the wonderful talent. For those of you who were here last year, they did a wonderful performance. I think they got us all up, and I think we had a conga through the whole room, so we'll look forward to that next year. I do also want to thank Emma Griffiths, our wonderful MC, who looks like a radiant bottle of champagne is the key. She's looking lovely today, and Emma's had a lot of work put into making sure the event runs smoothly and that all of the speakers and the Arafmi team are looked after. And I want to thank Alex and her wider team for all of the work that you've done to contribute to making the day happen. I might get the Arafmi team to stand up again just to do a bit of a wave, and could you please give them a really warm thank you? He's coming up in a minute. He's getting a special thank you. So it's easy for me to stand on stage and take credit for things, but it is absolutely not the truth. The team that you've just been introduced to make my job really easy, and they make it very easy for us to promote and boast about the wonderful things we do, but really the hard work is done by the carer teams themselves. So they're the ones that keep things going. So please give them another warm thank you. And I think we have Tom here from the board. Is Tom still here? Tom, if you could give a wave. Tom Augustin is our deputy chair. And I'd like to thank the board for not sacking me for swearing last year at the Carer Forum, and I've promised not to do it again this year, so I think I've managed and done a good job. So the last thing we want to do in Arafmi Carer Forum tradition is we have some lucky door prizes. This is the most exciting part of the forum, and I do want to stress many times this is not a registered lottery event, and we are under no rules or regulations about charity at this particular point in the day. So if I can invite the wonderful Richard up to the stage, who's going to help me with the prizes. So Richard has made this event happen. And he is the only one in the carer team who makes those bucket hats look remotely presentable. So well done, Richard. So Richard, please tell us, what is the first prize that we're going to run out?
So we've got 2 tickets to QPAC for any show that you wish to see.
Okay, so Richard, would you like to, well, could I have a drum roll?
Can't say that. Purple ticket, D52.
Woohoo! Congratulations, that is so exciting. Hooray.
Next one will be another 2 tickets to a QPAC show of your choice.
And drum roll again, please.
Purple ticket, D12.
D12. Oh, it's Vicky. Well done, Vicky. Congratulations, Vicky. Okay, Richard, what is our next wonderful prize?
All right, the next prize is 2 tickets to a Queensland ballet performance.
Ooh.
A little bit fancy pants.
This one's coveted, I can tell. All right, do we have a drum roll? Stop looking. That never happens.
Another purple ticket. D42.
And if there's no, we'll do 10-second countdown. Have we got a D42? D Backman Hoyle, no, you can't stop cheating? No. All right, we're going to have to redraw. We're going to have to redraw.
Redraw it is.
A further drum roll, please. No, hang on.
Red ticket.
Ooh.
B01.
Oh. Come on. No red ticket. Oh, hooray, we got a winner. And that is the coveted ballet tickets. Now, we are going to verify your ticket because that looked a bit sus. Excellent. B01. Yes, he's a winner. See, we're having fun. Should we do can we do the Gold Coast? Can I just check, are there any Gold Coast Titan fans in? All right, so the 2 Gold Coast Titan fans And I'm just going to unashamedly do this. We have a wonderful prize at Arafmi. It's a signed 2025 signed framed jersey that we are going to re-gift to one of the Gold Coast Titan fans. So I think between you, how do we work this out? You don't want do you want a signed? Okay, come on down. What a winner and what a lovely, generous thing to do. So we're going to post it out to you because it's huge and you won't be able to take it home on the train if that's where you're going. But we're going to make sure that gets posted out to your address. So that's a very generous gift from Tom, our board member, who's re-gifted. So signed jersey, it's worth a lot of money. It's actually quite, people have these things. So signed jersey in a frame. No, it's wonderful. We could get rid of it.
We couldn't get rid of it.
We could. I'm glad it's going to a Titans fans home. All right. Can we have what's the next prize?
A Loving Loudly gift box.
Ooh, one of my favourites.
Purple 89.
D89. D89. Redraw. Yeah, we want to get out of here on time. All right, we're going to do a redraw. Consensus Oh, no, hang on. No, we've got a winner. Cheryl, you can win. You deserve a... Okay, come on down. No, we'll take the prize. Just give us a round of applause. That's okay, Cheryl. You just need to put it in the gift register at the end. We've got Jonathan from HR is somewhere. He'll make sure you put it in the gift register. That's okay. All right, Richard, shall we do your magic again? What's the next prize?
One more Loving Loudly.
Okay, and another drum roll.
Purple D49.
Is it D. Backman Hoyle? It is. D, I think that was my ticket, but that's okay. Excellent, congratulations, Dee. And the next prize is a night out with Richard. Restaurant of your choice. You can go on your own if you
McDonald's.
Want. So sorry, Richard, what is our last prize for the day before we wrap up?
One more Loving Loudly box.
Ooh, okay, can I have a drum roll? We love these boxes.
I've already got one.
Oh, you've picked one out? No, did we? Oh, yeah, okay.
Red B02.
And congratulations, we have a winner. So thank you to Loving Loudly for the gifts for QPAC and for Queensland Ballet for their generous donations to the gifts. Now, before we completely wrap up, can I just have all of the Arafmi team to come down to the bottom of the stage, please? Absolutely everybody from Arafmi, if you can come down to the bottom here. What a wonderful, good-looking bunch we have. It's a pretty impressive team, isn't it? Come on down, Tina. We've got the Arafmi team. Is everybody here? And I'll come behind you. So can I just, before we all go again and wish you safe home, can I just say thank you to the Arafmi team for all of the wonderful work they do, for bringing this together today, but also for everything they do. We provide 24/7 services, and we have people around the clock. So I just want to say thank you to our wonderful team for everything that they do, and thank you to you as mental health carers for connecting with us and helping us do all the wonderful work we do. So if you could give yourselves a warm round of applause and thank you, and for the team. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, team. You make my job incredible every day. I hope I give back to you in the same way, but what a wonderful group of people. We have really lucky to all work together. Sorry we're missing our state-based people. Some of them are online. But thank you for everything you do. Have a good rest tomorrow and over the weekend. And to your mental health carers, we know that you do the hard yards every day. Thank you so much for everything that you contribute, not just to your loved ones, but to the community in general. Wish you a very safe trip home, and please remember we're here 24/7. Have a nice night.